Hello there everybody, how are we all? I hope we're well. I certainly am, I thank you for asking. We'll be joined by No Justice MTG in just a moment. To talk about some stuff and the things, some British politics and that. As well as some Americano business, because it seems that Donald Trump might have been shot at again or something, we're not entirely sure. 'Tis but breaking news. Anyway, yes, I had a lovely afternoon. I had a lovely afternoon. I went to my nephew's christening. He is now officially a Christian. I'll be honest with you, I don't think, given the conversation I had with him, a rather one-sided conversation, I don't think he fully grasps the underpinnings of the Christian teaching. But you know what? It's the thought that counts. And if he's ever capable of a thought, I'll get back to you. No, he was delightful. No, it was lovely. The weather for it was shite, as is the way. But the lad himself was on good form. He didn't even cry when the water was poured over his head, which I think means he isn't of the devil. I think that's how it works. I don't know. What the fuck am I talking about? Well, it would appear that Trump hasn't been shot. Apparently he's fine. So it's, and I say that, I mean, that is, like, it's an all, like, look, I don't take opinions of things that I don't fully understand that well, okay? And we don't understand this situation, so I'm not going to say one way or another what would have been a good scenario for this. I'm not going to say that. Other people can. Anyway. Don't forget, you can hit the follow button. You can subscribe whilst I'm still vaguely monetized. Yes, you can. You can subscribe with Amazon Prime. You can give subs to the community. You can do bits messages, 200 bits or more. We'll get you a text to speech. You can go over to the Discord. I've got no, hang on. Bits messages. You can do bits messages. You can do super chats via the Streamlabs link below. You can do Discord, PayPal, Blue Sky, TikTok, Patreon, YouTube, Instagram, Blue Sky and Threads. I think these are things. Yeah. Anyway, Trump using his presidential immunity. Well, exactly. He can just say, this is official business, I'm allowed to kill him. I think that's how it works. I think that's the business that's the situation Trump has set up, right? That's his thing, so... Live by the sword, die by the sword, I guess. Anyway, if you're on YouTube, hello YouTuberinos, you can thumb the video up. You can subscribe to the channel. You become a member for as little as 99 pence on the YouTubes. You can gift memberships to the community, and you can do super chats, which I will read out. Yeah. These are all things that are available to you if you are so inclined. I would be much what's the phrase I'm looking for? I've forgotten. Anyway, I would appreciate it. But yeah. Thumb up the well, that's not what I said, is it? Bilderberg. That is, you have put a different connotation on that. Not that there's anything wrong with using your thumb in that way. But there you go. Anyway. I have neither allegiance to YouTube nor Twitch. Well, I don't have an allegiance to either of them either. They're just companies that will pay me money to do this shite. Well, actually, they don't pay me. The people pay me. But you get the idea. Sex sells. I don't think my sex will sell, if I'm entirely honest. Like, some people say, like, oh, I'll go on the game or something like that. Like, I don't think that's an option for me. Do you think? Can you see Kev as a male prostitute? I don't see it panning out well for me. I don't think I'd thrive in that world. I could be wrong. We might have to see. I don't get this meme. Well, that's because you're gay for Mole Man, Big Zebra. I don't know what else to tell you. There's a market for everything. Yeah, but I feel the people that would be into me, I don't ever want to fuck. I don't know if that's a horrible thing to say, but yeah, I'm not sure, to be honest. Hello there, Helena. How are you?
Hello there, Kev. Hello, chat. How are we all? How are you all this evening? This fine, fine evening.
It's not a fine evening. That is deeply untrue. It is drizzle. It is
It's
drizzled
miserable,
all
isn't it?
fucking day. Yeah,
It really has been very, very miserable.
true.
I always forget, Kev. Are you a fan of Formula One?
I'm not really. I was a long time ago, but I sort of stopped caring.
I mean, basically what was like for me. I cared between like 1997 and 2004, but I
Yeah.
recently got back into it, and it's been super fun and interesting. And today's race was great. So
What
either
happened?
way, there's just multiple different crashes and people passing. Like one of the championship contenders qualified in 15th, but ended up finishing up in 4th, having battled the way through the field, like Kimi Raikkonen style. It was
Nice.
really sweet. It was really sweet.
Cool, cool. Where was it held?
Baku in Azerbaijan, which
Oh,
doesn't help
nice.
actually. Doesn't help being held in a country that's just like ethnically cleansed the Republic of Artsakh, but
Well, I mean, to be fair, they have them in all kinds of petro states. I mean, is that ethically
true.
any better?
True, yeah, it's not exactly better to have it in Saudi Arabia now, is it?
No, no, it is not. Um,
Absolutely. And also the good part as well is that the person who won, Oscar Piastri, is one of the very few Formula One drivers who's still domiciled for tax purposes in the UK.
really? Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Well,
everyone else all fucked off to
more
Monaco.
fool him, I guess. I don't know.
It's fine. I mean, that's why I support him.
No,
Like,
good man, good
it's
man.
the McLaren team. 'Cause Oscar Piastri is actually Australian, whereas Lando Norris is the British driver on the team. But he's his tax base is in Monaco, and so as you know, I don't give a shit whether you're Australian or British, as long as you're domiciled for tax purposes in the UK. That's what matters to me.
True, but like, he's not even from here. He's better at being British than the British people.
Yeah, exactly. He's far more patriotic. Like, as far as I'm concerned, the singular determining factor in how patriotic you are is, do you pay your fucking taxes? Do you contribute to statecraft
No,
financially?
it's singing the special song to the magic flag. That is all. That is the only thing that matters. You clearly don't understand this patriotism at all. Very sad. Um, yes. Oh yeah, and it turns out that we were right that Jeremy Corbyn was being smeared the whole time.
Oh my god, the fucking article. I mean, we read it through on stream
Yeah.
yesterday,
No, I
with
assumed you would have probably
Curtis.
covered it. Yeah.
Yeah, legitimately infuriating. But I mean, it's difficult to put into words like just how like kind of soul destroying reading it is. Not, I mean, obviously we knew that this was true. It was clear from things like the Ford report, but just the kind of the nonchalance that it gets reported on by like somebody who is like news editor for the Guardian at the time, now works for ITV News, going, "Oh yeah, well we knew the whole time. Just didn't think we'd bother reporting on it."
Hmm. And they won't bother reporting on it. Just like the Al Jazeera reports and all of that, they won't bother covering any of it. Why
Yeah,
would they? It's part of the
exactly.
game to not admit the game. You don't you don't
Mm.
you don't reveal that the game is taking place. That's how you
True.
lose.
Yeah, exactly. Literally, it's the first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
Hmm. The truth about Hierarchy Club is that you just ignore the fact that there's a hierarchy, because if you accept that, you have to try and defend it, and it's indefensible. I went a bit
Exactly.
weird with my analogy there, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
Yes. So, shall we take a look at a pretend journalist doing pretend journalism?
Should we have a look at the funny stuff, the quick funny stuff first, though? Because I know she wanted to talk about the Laura Loomer Trump stuff, which is very funny.
Well, no, I'd put it in so I could use the phrase gluck-gluck. That's all I
True,
wanted to
true,
do.
that's good. And also, apparently, somebody shot near Donald Trump again.
Yeah, which I mean, look, all I'm going to say is American marksmanship is not exactly impressing me. 0 for 2,
I
America.
mean,
0 for 2.
it, and not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but it sounds to me like Trump was so mad about the fact that people just didn't take the first assassination attempt seriously and it stopped being news. Like,
Hang on, someone tried to assassinate him. When did this happen?
I know,
I
exactly.
definitely remember something like that happening. So that can't possibly have happened. What are you talking about?
It's just that it's left the news cycle like a few days afterwards. People just forgot, and it's just like I am the most important president you've ever seen. If I get shot at, that should be national news for the next 7 days and next 4 weeks at the very least. And so I'm gonna have myself shot again, and this time the media will not ignore me. And like that's all I can think of is going on inside his head. I'd say they just pretend shot him. But I don't think that's true, but I would definitely wouldn't put it past him.
Yeah, I look. I think there's definitely an element of him wanting to stay relevant and in the news. Because let's be honest, most of what he does is just so that he can be the center of attention. I don't even think he cares because he knows he's going to lose, and so he's just sort of going with the well, they're going to rob me anyway, which was always going to be the excuse. So he just wants the all eyes on him. That's the grift, isn't it? So,
literally a TikTok came up on my feed today when I was scrolling, just like with this trans person saying that the thing they hate the most about Trump is he doesn't actually hate trans people. He just says whatever dumb shit he thinks will make him popular.
Oh yeah, no, I don't think he's particularly has any real political beliefs as such. His philosophy, to the degree that it can be called that, is self-interest. That's it. He cares about himself first. To a degree, he kind of cares a little bit about his family, and again, I mean a little bit, only in so much as it sort of reflects upon him badly if they do badly. But other than that, yeah, he just cares about making money for himself, and
I don't think he cares about making money anymore. He just cares about being the center of attention. Like he's just a narcissist.
Oh no, there's no doubt he's a narcissist, but underlying all of it is his desperate search for money because he keeps losing it. Because he's actually
losing all his court cases.
Well, not just that, but his business dealings. He's awful. He's a terrible businessman. He was basically bailed out by The Apprentice. If you look at I'm talking hundreds of millions that he's earned from that franchise by just sitting there saying "you're fired" on TV. That's it. That was basically his input to that show.
Yeah.
But because he's the face of it, he gets all the fucking money. He was bailed out from the 1990s. Awful investments he made because of that show, and that money's basically gone now. And that presidential pittance that they gave him, that's not going to last very long because he just burns through money. So it's constantly about trying to make money.
Yeah. It's honestly, again, it's just that's what's so sad. That's what's so sad about the MAGA cultists is that they don't know they're being grifted. And that's the problem, is that the people who are the hardest to convince of being grifted are the ones who are the deepest into the cult, who are the deepest into the con, because they don't want to feel the shame that they've been taken for a fucking ride.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, it's embarrassing. I've sort of stopped caring what Trump people say now. Like it's not interesting to listen to them because you know exactly what they're going to say. You already know before you hear them what they're going to say, so it's pointless. Yeah. The only person of any interest in this is Trump himself. Did you watch his press conference the other day? He's genuinely fucking insane. There's something wrong with him. He's broken in a very, very specific way. He was going on about, personally, somehow, I don't know how he thinks this works, but apparently Kamala Harris as and he's not even calling her Kamabla anymore, it's now Kamababla. It's the new thing he's decided to call her, which just sounds like a speech impediment issue, really. But whatever. He thinks that she, as vice president, has personally brought in MS-13, which is like a gang of drug dealers and stuff, to decapitate Americans. Was the phrase he fucking used in a live press conference in what only could be described as. So someone who like an OAP home escapee, low energy shit posting. That was basically what it was for 3 hours. It was ridiculous.
It reminds me of it's like the Anne Widdecombe speech at the European Union, the European Parliament. Just like why whose grandparent has been just let loose?
Honestly, it was like half of the shit that gets said in the fucking House of Lords. Yeah, just like this decrepit old fuck. Just honestly. No, is it terms of service? I'm not wishing ill on anyone, and I'm not wishing violence upon them. But whenever I watch members of the House of Lords talking, I think to myself, it would be better if you just died, I think. Actually, I think the country would be better if you all just fucking died. Now, no one should do anything about that. I'm just saying they're old. It's going to happen relatively soon. You know?
The thing is with Trump as well is that 70 million people are going to vote for him.
Yeah, oh, it's fucking terrifying. Yeah. Yeah.
So what the fuck is America?
Again, broken is the only real way of thinking about it. There's something desperately amiss. And it's, to be honest with you, it starts in the schools. The Conservatives, as always, every allegation is a confession. When they talk about the left taking over our institutions, it's because they have already taken over them, and they're scared that the left might take them back. A lot of schools, especially in the South, in red states, they purposely don't educate their children. Like, purposefully don't educate them.
I think, and also on top of that, it's not just the schools as well, it's like the homeschooling.
Well, that should be illegal. I honestly don't think
America
that's the thing.
is the biggest experiment in showing everybody why homeschooling should be fucking outlawed.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think it should be legal. I don't think that's
you cannot have a cohesive society
Yeah.
where children don't get taught like basic shit.
Yeah.
Basic shit.
Like, I'm sorry, Mrs. whatever your name is, or Mr. whatever your name. Like, no, you aren't trained in any of these things. Let alone the social impact of having your kid become a fucking recluse before they, hit puberty. No, this is not acceptable. You're not teaching the kid anything. We have standards that you have to meet, and you clearly can't possibly meet them. You aren't trained to. And the kid's going to end up a fucking basket case. Like,
fucking Donald Trump. Gonna vote for Trump.
Exactly, but that's what yeah. They're more than happy to not educate their children. Because an educated populace doesn't vote for the likes of Donald Trump, and frankly, they wouldn't vote for fucking Kamala Harris or Joe Biden either. Let's be entirely honest. A genuinely educated, engaged electorate would demand a lot better than the current crop of cunts.
It would do. We wouldn't have gotten ourselves to this ridiculous situation.
Yeah.
Like the fact that there was a real, there was a real chance that there was going to be a rerun of Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and it was going to be two fucking mentally deficient. I'm saying that's being mean, but it's just that's what happens when you're old. Like, it's just a fact of life that your brain stops working the older that you get.
Yeah.
The neurons stop firing as quickly. Right? It's elder. It was going to be like the biggest elder abuse, a televised elder abuse event.
But the beautiful thing is
history.
the sort of rug pull they did on Trump, because Trump's whole thing was going to be he was going to get in on that as the slightly younger of the two decrepit bastards, and now he's the old man in the room, and he's left there with his pants down going, I'm scared. I don't know what's happening. The young people are being mean to me. Did you literally say he fucking... Well, I don't know what it's called on his site, but the equivalent of tweeting on his site. He just tweeted out all caps lock, I hate Taylor Swift. With 4 exclamation marks. What? You're a psychopath, mate.
You know that immediately reminded me of?
What's that?
Was the Scottish guy who I was on a Sky News broadcast when the Icelandic volcano erupted, just screaming, "I hate Iceland." He'd not heard about the eruption. It's just Kerry Katona's agent.
Heyo. Hey, love it. That is a joke that only the British members of the audience might get.
But that's it. I hate Iceland. It's the refrain that he screamed into the camera because the Palace flight had been cancelled or some shit. But I hate Taylor's. Just this man's brain is soup, literally.
Yeah.
I'm just
So he's going after the youth vote then. It's not like she's just completed the biggest fucking world tour in history or anything. It's not like she's enormously successful. No.
That's a really important point. I was watching an interesting video by an Australian creator talk about the US election.
Right.
Saying that most people in America are solidified in who they're going to vote for, and so there's very few swing voters you can win over, who are definitely going to vote but are undecided either way. The candidates are so different. America is so polarized. People who are already politically engaged, they've already decided they're not too.
That's sort of Trump's problem is that he's maxed out, basically.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
The election is the actual kind of fulcrum that the election lies on isn't who do you convince from the centre, it's who do you convince from the centre. It's who do you convince from the pool of people who weren't otherwise going to vote. It's about energizing. Because I mean, the stat they brought up, which was fascinating that I didn't know before, which was that the 2020 election, Joe Biden is the first presidential candidate in 50 years to get more votes than the people who were eligible to vote and that didn't vote. Every other election,
Wow.
50 years, more people didn't vote than voted for the winning candidate.
That's
Yet
incredible.
Joe Biden was the only person who reversed that, and it was basically down to the fact that Donald Trump was crazy and people wanted him.
Well, and because both of them, they both received the two by far largest ever votes for president of any candidate. Now, of course, it's obviously a large population, but by far, like inexplicably far, unless you take into account the fact that because of COVID, they opened up the franchise by allowing postal voting much more freely, which meant that people voted. Crazy, I know. They invited people into the electoral process, and they used it.
Exactly. Well, that's why the Taylor Swift endorsement is actually really important, because
she works for the Mail. Yeah.
Well, the thing is that she posted a link for people to go and find the how do I go to vote, the registered to vote bit.
Yeah.
400,000 people followed that link from that website. The
That's
stats were released
pretty good.
afterwards by that people on that website, and it led to, I think it was almost 40,000 new registered voters. Every poll that you see is from already registered voters and likely voters.
Yeah.
This is not that. So all these new people coming in, that's going to completely confound the polls. And actually, it's worth pointing out that it's not just like the left that are doing this, or the Democrats. Not really the left, but the Democrats are not the ones doing this. But you've seen Trump has been fucking hanging around all of the podcast bros like Lex Friedman and Theo Von, and wants to get on Joe Rogan and shit like that, because young men are breaking for Trump very slightly in a way that young women clearly aren't.
Yeah.
And so that is the non-voting demographic that he is trying to chase. They both realize chasing these non-voting demographics. And again, the young people's voter turnout is really low in America. And if they just realize, well, hang on a minute, we are the biggest voting cohort who could potentially swing an election because we've not made our mind up yet, we could get a presidential candidate to pander to us forever, and we would have complete dictatorial control over the next election in terms of how we want economic policy structured.
Nice.
Like, it was why it's so dumb that the Biden administration haven't just like fucking overridden like the Senate parliamentarian or what they've been told they can or can't do in terms of student loan forgiveness.
Yeah.
They should do this right now. The election's in months. Right now, get rid of some fucking student loan debt. Those are the people you need to vote for. Yeah.
True. So you say they don't vote. So you're saying that the Pokemon go to the polls, that didn't work as messaging? Is that what you're
weird,
suggesting?
Isn't it? Super, super weird, isn't it?
Because I thought that was a winner. I thought, honestly, I didn't nearly die of cringe when that happened. I thought that was awesome, and thought that she would definitely win the election after that. Oh, God. And that's also another reason to want Kamala to win, of course. Because it would really annoy the fuck out of Hillary Clinton, and I'm down with that. Definitely.
I mean, yeah. If there's somebody who's worth voting for somebody who's complicit in genocide,
That is.
if there's anything worth doing so, it's pissing off Hillary Clinton. Because let's be
True.
real, she was responsible for fucking Libya. So.
Well, indeed. Thank you. The Book of Dark with $2 Australian. Is that real money? I don't even know. It's Australia.
I don't think that makes £1.
Something like that. Yeah. And their message is, your amount and message will be public. ... I mean, that's either quite creative, or that's literally the message that is there that you, for some reason, sent to the thing rather than replacing it with your actual message. I don't even know how it works. I've never super chatted anybody, because I think YouTubers are scum and you shouldn't give them money. Except, of course, myself and No Justice MTG, who are awesome. Okay?
We are indeed. We are the awesome ones. We are the only two good YouTubers.
Literally. Fucking literally. Yes. Also, Laura Loomer's probably noshing off Trump. Is a thing that is apparently happening now. So that's awesome.
Yeah, like, I'm so surprised that Melania Trump just doesn't give a shit anymore.
Oh no, well, she's been waiting for him to die for like 20 years. Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
The fact that he's been he's engaged in infidelity. The
Yeah,
fact that he's been
well, that's happened
unfaithful.
loads of times. Yeah.
That can expedite the process. Take him for all he's worth. Do it. Do a Mackenzie Bezos.
True, but like he's the kind of vindictive prick, and presumably he knows where her skeletons are buried. So, like, yeah, you might get a lot of money out of it. Exactly, yeah, exactly. There's a reason that she, like, pretends to be his wife, like, twice a year at official gatherings. Because functionally speaking, she isn't his wife anymore. They are absolutely fucking separated. To the point where he can bang 31-year-old fucking yassified jigsaw dolls. Ridiculous.
Like is Leslie Ash reflected in the back of a spoon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what she is. I honestly don't, and I'm scared to think that I might be the same species. I'm worried. Honestly.
Did you see the clip of her on Tim Pool just saying that when they get into power they want to execute dissidents?
Well, I'm glad she's whispering sweet little nothings into his ear. That can't go badly for everybody. Jesus fucking Christ, what a world we've come to.
Why are these only choices?
It's so grim. It's so fucking grim. Honestly. Yeah. I again, to the point where I'm thinking, like, I do hope the woman who's complicit in the genocide wins. Like, that's how bad it is. Because this guy's like, actually, I don't think they've done the genocide enough. If I become president, I'm going to back them to do the genocide completely.
Genocide 2, genocide harder.
Exactly. This time it's personal. Jesus fucking Christ. So
yeah,
that's
one time Mahmoud Abbas said that my hairpiece was ugly, and so now I've decided to destroy his people.
Yeah, that is the kind of shit he would do. Yeah.
I mean, literally, did you see the letter that he fucking wrote to Erdogan saying, like, oh, it's fine. I think we should come to a gentleman's agreement where we be happy together, but you don't invade Kurdistan. And it looked like a fucking 5-year-old wrote it. I'm like, this was the leader of the free world conversing with somebody about to ethnically cleanse the Kurds from Turkey.
Intellectually speaking, a 5-year-old did write it. This is a man who it had to be explained to him 3 fucking times during the interregnum period before he became president. What the nuclear what's it called in America? The 3 anyway. The not tripod. Fuck. Why is it escaping me? No. It's got a specific word for it. Anyway, and it's basically you've got surface-to-air missiles, you've got bombs that can be delivered by planes, and you've got submarines. Right. So there are 3 ways you can. There is triad, the nuclear triad. Thank you. Yeah. So it's a pretty simple concept, and it had to be explained to him 3 times. And I'm absolutely convinced he still did not understand that. He also had to be explained to him during his presidency why it was a bad idea to drop a nuclear bomb on a hurricane.
I literally remember this. Oh my god! Again, the guy just looked directly at a solar eclipse.
Yeah, I imagine that. Imagine you've worked all of your life, and okay, look, the army people are fucking cunts. I don't care about that. But like, just think of it from their perspective, right? They've worked tirelessly. They put their lives on the line. They've gone and killed loads of Iraqis. Oh, they've swum in a lake of Iraqi blood to get to the position of becoming like the head of the chiefs of staff. And then you have to answer questions from an absolute fucking idiot who clearly doesn't have the first clue what the fuck is going on around him. They were literally saying, you know, when there's a policy decision to be made, they'll often hand them documents, and there'll be like 6 different documents with like the 6 different options that are available for this problem. And knowing that Trump was a fucking loose cannon, they would deliberately take them off the table. The ones that you like, because usually there's like 2 of them that are like complete no-nos, but you have to offer it because you're the president. You have to give them the absolute full gamut of like possibilities. That's the whole point, right? You're there as an advisor,
commander-in-chief.
Yeah, exactly. But you assume that the guy you're talking to isn't a nutter and won't choose the nuke Moscow button one, right? That one, right? But they knew with Trump.
It's literally like the bit in The Simpsons where he goes, "I was elected to lead,
yeah,
not to read."
It's the Simpsons movie, absolutely, yeah.
Just telling him which one.
He's Rainier Wolfcastle, 100%, yeah. And so they deliberately, they had to, for to fulfill their purposes, put it all on the table. And then as they were explaining it, they'd like distract him with something over there and literally take documents off the table so he couldn't choose them. Like he's a fucking toddler with a knife.
He probably would take the documents back to Mar-a-Lago anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. Honestly, I bet the spies of like the world have never had it so good with Trump. They do, usually you have to do wiretapping and you have to get someone on deep cover for fucking 25 years to get them to that level. No, just buy a ticket at Mar-a-Lago and listen to the cunt talking. It'll just reveal all of them.
An email saying, "I am a Nigerian prince who I would like to, and I need access to the Federal Reserve to be able to deal with the problems."
Exactly. I need access to your nuclear code so that I can deposit $500,000 in your bank account.
Good afternoon, sir. My name's George. I'm calling from your banking department.
Love it.
What's your surname? Akduk Dequingo. By the way, this is a character from Phone Jack. I'm
From
just not being
Phone
racist
Jack,
for no
yes.
reason.
No, exactly. No, it was actually Kayvan Novak who was being racist for no reason.
It was Kayvan Novak, true.
Anyway, he's the one who plays the house guest or house partner ghost vampire in What We Do in the Shadows. For those people who've watched that show, he's very good.
He was also Wadge in Four Lions.
He was Wadge in Four Lions, yeah. Rubberdingy Rapids.
Rubberdingy Rapids, bro.
Anyway,
you fucked up rabbit with no ears. It's a chicken, bro. It's a chicken.
I want to say the one where he says, was it, am I going to be blowing a horse or am I P-word Rambo? Because it's fucking brilliant, but I'm not saying that word on air. Or, indeed, off air, for that matter. Anyway.
So it's a real magnum opus of Chris Morris's career, it really is.
And that's following the Day-to-Day and Brass Eye.
And Jam and everything else. Nathan Barley.
Underrated Nathan Barley. Yeah.
I mean, Nathan Barley especially good because it wasn't just Chris Morris, it was also Charlie Brooker.
Yes. Yeah. Pretty fucking good. Pretty good. Anyway, I think we rambled on about American bullshit long enough.
I'm just going to get a drink and go watch some Laura Koonsberg.
Let's fucking go.
And watch David Lammy squirm being asked basic questions.
Well, of course.
Hold fire. Ukraine was on the White House agenda for the President and the Prime Minister. But despite Zelensky's pleading to shoot Western missiles into Russia, Ukraine still waits. The Foreign Secretary, fresh from those talks, David Lammy, will join us live this morning. Here he is, alongside James Cleverly, who was the Foreign Secretary and the Home Secretary, but now wants another job to be the next Tory leader. Welcome to you both. David Lammy, an incredibly intense time for you in what's still a new job.
Yes, it was very important to be with Tony Blinken in Ukraine, of course, for discussions with Zelensky.
Oh, it's Tony Blinken now. Oh, we're on shortened first name terms with Tone, are we?
A big Tone, yeah.
And then on to the White House with Biden, with the Prime Minister. So it's been a big week, an important week.
And we'll talk to you about that later. But any tips for what it's like being Foreign Secretary, juggling such a range of difficult dilemmas?
Well, look, this is a very intense time. I think it's right that David and the Prime Minister went to the US. Our relationship with them is absolutely key and must be maintained at all costs.
Okay, well, we look forward to talking to both of you a bit later in the show. But roll
Atlantis
up,
is
roll
so
up.
fucking
It is
boring.
conference season again. Ed Davey will join us. Hopefully not.
Yeah, he decided he's going to carry on with his extreme sports weekend of an election. Did you see? He arrived.
Didn't it?
Well, he did. He arrived at the Lib Dem conference in Brighton on a jet ski. Why not?
He did indeed.
Fuck it.
Yeah, why
I
not?
told you he should like free run to Parliament and like fucking scale down from the public gallery and take his position.
Absolutely, I 100% agree. I mean, speaking of people doing dumb shit to get noticed on the internet, because it's the attention economy, you've got to do things to get yourself noticed. Did you see the Australian senator speaking the Zoomer language in the Australian Parliament?
I did not. I can only imagine it will make me cringe my dick off. Is
It was
what I'm
incredibly
thinking.
cringe, but she is literally a Zoomer. She's 27. So
How are these people so fucking young? Stop being young, you bastards.
yeah, but she has a legitimate excuse for using Zuma language in
Can the Prime
in
Minister
Parliament.
can respond to the allegations that he lacks skibbity riz?
She did say both Skibbity and yours.
Oh, fucking hell.
What was the
End
she-
me.
she-
Fucking end me.
It's she said the electorate face a choice between a mid-government and a dog-water opposition, or a crossbench that will mog them both.
Oh,
And hopefully, when these people do come and vote, we get a much more goated government with more Skibbity.
oh, honestly, everyone, usually I say, like, oh, you should give money in the form of bits and subs. And I still believe that. But trust me, you are funding a trip to fucking Switzerland because this is over. I need this to stop. This pain needs to cease.
The kids
hell.
on TikTok love it. She's speaking to the kids.
And I hate the kids. I hate them all.
The kids. I think as long as she gets support, it's good, because this is also the same senator in Australia who was expelled from the Labour Party, the Australian Labour Party, for crossing the floor and voting with a Greens motion to recognise a Palestinian state. She was the first Labour Party politician in Australia.
To be
cross
fair,
the floor
then, to be
in
fair, she does.
21 years.
She does have riz. Then I'll give her that. Okay, I'm back on Skibbity board. Is that I don't know how to speak these young people language.
No, me neither.
Whatever.
There's maximum risk though. That's maximum risk.
True.
On a jet ski, but there he is. He's joining us live later from the Lib Dem Jamboree in Brighton. And Bond star Ben Whishaw, the voice of Paddington, on his new show, the one that changed his life back when he was 18.
Young people have all these questions, and there's so much that feels incredibly frightening about the world in a very raw way when you're young. And there's something this play goes right into.
Oh, Jesus Christ, already. I've seen Piers Morgan's face, it's too much.
Oh,
Yeah.
Piers Morgan. Oh God. Oh, that's
no.
ruined.
And not just, but you wouldn't mind, but he's not even like a relevant person. He's a fucking YouTuber now.
He's literally a YouTuber. You can have Piers Morgan on, you can have me on.
Exactly. I mean, literally, because you're at least a coherent human being. Whereas he's like a fucking babbling, chunky lizard boy.
It is funny to
And
me. It
with
is
me,
funny to me. Like, of course, I understand why people want to vote for Jill Stein after Kamala Harris, but it is funny to me that their presidential candidate is going on Piers Morgan's YouTube channel to debate Destiny.
That is, it is interesting. Although, of course, I mean, it's becoming more intertwined, this world, because JD Vance I saw this week was having a go at what's her name? The one she used to do the show with Saga and Jetty.
Crystal Ball.
Crystal Ball. Yeah,
He still does breaking points with Saga.
Oh, no, do that well. I hope Saga goes to Switzerland as well. Yes, she they were back and forthing it on Twitter, and I just thought to myself, you're a vice presidential candidate, mate. Is this really how you want to spend your fucking day? This is what you think is a good thing? Not like drumming up on foreign policy or anything worthwhile to the American government? No, just arguing with a Z-list YouTuber.
They've
Brilliant.
got over 1 million subs now. They're at least F-list.
Okay, they are mid. Again, that's
Mid, yeah.
that's young people speak. I'm really tapping into the youth demographic, everybody. I'm just chilling in Cedar Rapids.
At the desk for the next hour, Piers Morgan, broadcaster and journalist, General John McCall, the former Deputy Supreme Allied Commander of Europe at NATO, and Tina Evans, the politics correspondent for the website Politics Joe.
Oh, okay. She might not be too bad.
Thing is, that's what's interesting as well, is that what they try and say is, well, we've got a politically balanced panel on this country. We have one left-wing journalist, one right-wing journalist, and then we have some expert, and then the expert they get is some incredibly rich business person or someone who who is massively in support of Western military interests.
Yeah, former fucking head of NATO.
That is not an impartial candidate.
Yeah. That's two fucking murderous pricks and someone who's probably alright, I guess. Brilliant. Thanks, BBC. Definitely my license fee money. I feel very seen by you.
Sorry, pause one
And
sec.
morning.
San in chat says Politics Joe is boring. Well, it's not for us. The Politics Joe is, we are not the target market. We are political. We're not just politically engaged, but we are political fucking nerds and geeks in chat. We're people who would talk about and think about politics every day, rather than casual observers who want something that is entry level but also progressive and not patronizing to listen to. We are clearly in no way their target audience because they're explaining things to people who don't know but are interested, whereas we are mostly people who already know.
Well, exactly. Yeah, you need to have a plethora of different media for people, ranging in terms of like quality and length and the sort of intellectual depth it goes into, ranging from like people who are literally know virtually nothing about it, but you want to get them interested in a topic, right through to people who are like PhD fucking candidates or whatever, and everyone in between. And so if Politics Joe fills one of those niches, great. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Exactly. Like, if they're bringing progressive people onto engaging with party politics, they blow smoke up of the fucking Labour rights arse, and it makes me cringe at my eyeballs. But people like the people who actually do the podcast and things like that, they were supportive of Jeremy Corbyn, and they bring on trade union leaders. They literally had like people like John Trickett, actual left-wing MPs, on to chat with on their podcast and things like that. So, broadly, they represent a kind of a large, big tent of progressivism, and if they bring people into that, then tangentially they'll get pulled into the pipeline and come becoming fucking commie bastards like us eventually. Hopefully,
Fair.
you'd think.
Morning. Let's start, as we always do, with what is making the news. Well, the Sunday Times splashes on the issue we'll be talking about a lot today. Permission for Ukraine to use Western long-range missiles. Tories urging the UK to say yes, even going it alone. It also breaks the...
Woo! Let's make it more dangerous! Yay! I, for one, welcome our new nuclear winter mutated overlords. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Can we just have any amount of rationality in any of these things, just pretty please?
No.
There
you go with your student politics again. No, there you go with your student politics, not wanting a nuclear water breakout.
Story about the wealthy donor
the sensible
and Lady
back
Victoria
in charge.
Starmer's dresses.
And as the bombs fall and you see the mushroom cloud coming towards you, you can think to yourself, isn't it nice? All the quiet.
Yeah, it's quiet because everyone's fucking dead.
Well, that is a kind of quiet, yes.
More of that later as well. The Observer sticks on foreign affairs too, fears that Russia has shared nuclear secrets with Iran. The Express has more pain for pensioners over winter fuel allowance. And the Sunday People focuses on a call from Esther Jai, the murdered teenager Brianna's mum. She spoke so movingly to us here a few months ago, and she's now part of the call for mobile phones to be banned in schools. And on the BBC, sad breaking news this morning.
What's frustrating is that I think that I really disagree with Brianna's mum here, and I don't think that the phones are to blame. I mean, they should ban phones in school so that kids don't get distracted and so they spend their time studying. I'm going to be a boomer about this and say that phones should be banned in school. But trying to say just ban them from social media because that's like the cause of it. No, there's transphobia. Like, she got killed by people who were transphobic about her, and also people just kind of psychotic anyway.
True.
Like, these people are going to kill somebody. The phones aren't the thing to blame for the societal ills that we have. Like, have you seen Australia are trying to ban kids under 14 from going on social media? Like, first of all, they go in these fucking VPN, but also you get people that upload their fucking ID to Twitter and shit. This isn't going to work.
Yeah, again, when I hear politicians say we need to ban something from the internet, I know they don't understand what they're talking about. Because that's not how it works. That's not how it works, and if you think it is, you shouldn't be legislating. You're completely incapable of understanding the gravity of the situation.
Exactly.
Anyway, but the point being, I agree with you that Brianna Jay's mother is wrong on this, but I find it really difficult to get energized to like make that argument, because I'm like, she's desperately trying to like deal with her shit, and do something productive that will, make sure her kid's memory lives on or something. Like, I think that's fucking awesome. It's just that the thing she's doing is kind of dumb. But
the people process we all have different opinions on these things. I think that it's misguided.
yeah. Also, this story, more people that needn't be dead are now dead because of the horrific continued hostile policies of the British government. The red team doing it though this time. At least the blood is on your hand, Kears. Yeah.
Several people are dead after attempting to cross the English Channel. So lots and lots of news this morning, but we are going to focus at the beginning of the programme on what's happening in Ukraine. Now, General, you've served all over the world. You had a very senior job at NATO, the Defence Alliance. What difference would being allowed to use long-range missiles being fired into Russia, would that make to Ukraine?
Oh, wow,
do you think?
Sean Connery turned up.
Yes, indeed. But also, like, just because he's a former general, did maybe think he might have something of a bias, given that he was a former general secretary or whatever the fuck he was of NATO, that he might give you an answer that NATO want you to hear rather than what is necessarily the truth? And do you not think you should give that kind of context to your audience as a journalist?
Well, firstly, I think the weekend's been disappointing. I think at the end of the weekend, President Putin will be
John
encouraged and
McCall.
emboldened.
Let me have a look at
And
him.
President Zelensky.
Former Deputy Supreme Allied Commander Europe at NATO.
This was his time in NATO. What he
General Sir John McCall, I will have you know.
UN Special Envoy
Yes.
for Afghanistan.
Maria in chat, by the way, can you just chill out a bit? Like, literally just fucking stop now, okay?
He went into Iraq. Excellent. I'm
Awesome.
Iraq and Afghanistan. Those two excellent wars that definitely weren't terrible.
No, I'm glad he got experience of fighting good war.
Zelensky will be disappointed. So I think that's a negative outcome. However, in terms of the Storm Shadow missile, I think it would have a limited effect. It is a tactical outcome. And in terms of the long-term campaign, the war as a whole, I don't think it would have a dramatic impact. So it needs to be put in that context. However, I also hope that the conversation will continue and in due course permission will be given.
What do you think about this, Piers? Because it's not just about the military outcomes, is it? It is about, as John said, that support from the West, and that's, I suppose, why I suggest why you say it's disappointing.
Look, we've got to work out who we want to win, or rather, who do we not want to lose? Do we want Vladimir Putin, a ruthless, barbaric?
Well, oh God, again with the surface level bullshit. We already know who we want to not lose. That's not a fucking issue at play. It's what does this help or hinder that? And is it a safe thing to do both for the people there and elsewhere?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Dictator to illegally invade a sovereign European democratic country and take what he wants. And I don't think we do we? And to those who want to just rush to allow Putin to keep what he's taken, I remind them of what Winston Churchill said about appeasement. An appeaser is someone who feeds the crocodile, hoping that you'll be the last one it eats.
True, but Winston Churchill also said everything's a dildo if you're brave enough. So I don't know what to believe.
He also said the Indians were a beastly people.
He actually did say that, though. I mean, I was just doing a silly joke, but he did say that. He
And also,
quipped,
it's true, but
he
also,
also
like,
quipped
again-
about why Gandhi wasn't one of the millions of Bengalis he'd starved to death. That's a thing he
And on
did.
top of this as well, as has been well pointed out in chat as well, weird how this, well, if you don't stop them from taking land now, they'll take more land, right? Hoping that you're the last one it eats. Why do we never apply the same logic to Zionism?
Are you suggesting the Jewish people are like sharks? That's very
No, I'm saying
anti-Semitic.
that I'm saying that Netanyahu is like Putin.
He's so... I mean, honestly, did you have to go full Hitler?
This
This early?
Oh, do you know that the meme talk about Hitler particles? You know that's not just like an online thing. I only learned this the other day. That's a reference to a Trotsky essay.
Is it?
Yeah, literally talks about people having people.
The Trotsky.
The actual Leon Trotsky talks about
nice.
Hitler particles. And let me find the actual quote.
Was this before or after he got ice picked?
I mean, hopefully before, unless he's been reanimated.
Yeah, no, I think he carried on writing for a bit. His work
Oh, that's what-
deteriorated.
That's it. Not every exasperated petite bourgeois could have become Hitler, but a particle of Hitler is lodged in every exasperated petite bourgeois.
You cheeky little minx. Love it.
I mean, it's true.
Yeah.
Literally true.
Yeah, true.
I think we're in danger, if we're not careful, of playing right into Putin's hands. And every time it looks like Ukraine gets some kind of advantage, Putin rattles his nuclear saber, and he keeps threatening this to...
True. I mean, look, I don't think he's going to do anything. And also, given how badly all of the pre-existing equipment that Russia had has worked in the field, which, by the way, you should have spent some of the money you were paying to Tim Pool on maybe updating some shit, Russia, just saying. But I don't think their nuclear weapons even fucking work anymore. They're just rusty piles of
Soviet
shit.
era still, right?
Yeah, like, I don't think they're functional, actually. Like, I mean, if they explode, they're going to kill people. But, like, I don't think they can fire them properly or anything. There's almost certainly, like, running on, like, floppy disks or something. Like, it shouldn't be an issue. Honestly, I think Britain could take them. I'm not suggesting we should. I'm just suggesting we could.
I mean, it is funny to me how we keep getting. I think we mentioned this before. Everyone keeps talking of saber rattling. Remember that time when people were obsessed with the news saying we're in a pre-war world. We need to increase military spending to defend ourselves against the future threat of Putin. I'm like, that fucker can't even take out a country that isn't even part of NATO or the European Union. He can't even take out a tiny piddly country who didn't even have a proper military until it's conscripted all of its males above the age of 18. Like, if it can't take, like, not even like half of the Donbass, right? Half of the Donbass is all they've managed to get to in what, over 2 years? And you think they're going to mount a land invasion of Britain?
Yeah.
Are you insane?
Well, look at it this way, right? We've been drip feeding Ukraine shit. Literally just the crap we couldn't use anymore. Okay? just bits of, like, basically we've been clearing out the loft of, like, old shite we didn't need anymore, giving it to Ukraine for them to use, and they've held the entirety of the Russian army at bay for 2 fucking years with it. Imagine if we brought out our big guns against them.
No, they're going to take Kiev in 3 days. There's 3 days.
Special military operation is very, very special indeed. Yeah, look, they've got no chance. Imagine if they actually came for us. We could just drone strike them into oblivion. We wouldn't need to meet them on the field. It's embarrassing. Honestly, it's genuinely, for Russia, it must be humiliating. Like, Putin has to style it out, but there's only so many times you can ride bareback on a horse before, like, motherfucker, we've got guys literally having to plug bullet holes with tampons. Like, come on. You're taking the piss.
Yeah. Like Original Demon points out that the munition production factory stuff gets stolen and sold up. Remember that? And I think there's been a lot. Russia have had a real big problem with deserters as well.
Yeah.
They feel like it's completely pointless exercise.
And the amount of equipment that gets abandoned and then just taken in by, like, Ukrainian farmers. Like, Ukrainian farmers have got tanks and stuff and missile systems. Like, it's bizarre. Honestly, the Russians have performed so badly. And I genuinely, I think Ukraine can be proud of the stoicism they've shown in the face of what must have been fucking terrifying odds at first, right? And they've held one of the great powers, supposedly, of Earth at bay. Pretty impressive for a very, very poor nation. Yeah.
Everybody, and we all back off because we're fearful of him using nuclear weapons, and yet he hasn't done that, and I don't think he's ever going to do that. So I think we've got to stand up to this guy.
It is a dangerous poker game, though, isn't it, Ava? And we've got a new Prime Minister who's spending a lot of time on foreign affairs already. What do you think the political...
Yeah, that's mainly because the stuff at home's been fucking disastrous. So he has to, like, dive into foreign affairs because it's not looking
Otherwise,
great
we'll
on the
talk
home
about all the
front.
pensioners that he's killing, and now let's talk about all of the Palestinians that he's implicit in killing.
Yeah. Or why is it that you can literally be bought? Why is it you can literally be bought as Prime Minister, mate? By giving your wife some dresses. Yeah, we'll get to it.
Good calculation is for him. It's interesting, we've got former Tory Defence Secretaries today and Boris Johnson both saying Starmer should go it alone.
But the problem is we're looking ahead to a November election in America, and we're looking ahead to potentially Trump in the White House. If Donald Trump is to get into the White House, and this conversation that we're having now about long-range missiles being allowed to be given over to Ukraine will not happen. It will cease to exist. And so Keir Starmer's got to get in there early.
Well, that is another thing. There's no doubt that if Trump does get in, he will absolutely abandon Ukraine. The Republicans have made it very, very clear. All of the big MAGA heads are all like, defund Ukraine, defund Ukraine. And he'll just go with the crowd. Regardless of whether he thinks it's a good idea or not, he'll go with it.
He's got to make this agreement now, and then that would be a lot more difficult for Trump to unpick that legislation if he is to ascend to the presidency. Okay. The trick is for Starmer, he's got to get in now with the Democrats or it's all over.
Well, we will see. So in terms of President Trump, Piers, we will talk to you a lot about that later in the show. Do you think it's right that Trump actually would just wash his hands of Ukraine, as Ava suggested?
I don't actually. I think he's being very cryptic about what he would do with Ukraine. He said he could resolve it in
still fondling his balls, I see, Piers. Interesting.
24 hours. I think that's a stretch. But I think the thing about Trump, which was effective, as well as sometimes ineffective, but his effectiveness is his unpredictability. And also, he has a gigantic ego. Is he going to want the first thing that happens if he gets re-elected for Vladimir Putin to claim a victory over the West? I find that very unlikely.
Okay, politicians with egos, whatever next. All three will be with you throughout the programme. Thank you for now. So let's get on then with the business in hand. That decision for the West. Should Ukraine be allowed to...
Sorry. Apparently, the FBI are calling it an apparent assassination attempt on Trump. Jesus Christ.
Again, 0 for 2, America. Rookie numbers. Oh God, am I going to have to denounce? Am I going to be denounced by Jack Black now? We were friends for so long.
Yeah, you're as good a shot as an average like Russian military conscript.
True.
To fire those long-range missiles supplied by its allies into Russia. As we've been hearing about, Putin has warned of nuclear consequences if the US and the UK say yes. It's a dangerous dilemma, but it's only one of a very long list for the new Foreign Secretary. David Lammy has already travelled to 9 countries in 10 weeks. A trip to Kyiv, there we can see him there this week before joining President Biden alongside the Prime Minister in talks at the White House. And welcome to you this morning as your first big interview with us as Foreign Secretary.
Thank you.
Before we get on to those very complicated issues, I want to ask you for your response about the news about several migrants being found who have died trying to cross the channel.
By the way, the FBI are about to give a press conference on the thingy-majig, if we want to dip into that.
Yeah, let's pop into that. Seems important.
Yeah, they're not currently doing anything, but
we'll keep
a face has appeared. I don't know if it's of any note. Where are we? I don't know who the fuck these lads are.
So this is reporting coming in from our partners, the CBS News Channel, which has been following developments there, and again saying that the suspect had fled the scene after he was engaged by Secret Service agents with multiple gunshots.
So he's escaped.
Here is a statement on those developments from the Martin County
So not only are
like
potential assassins like terrible at actually getting the job done, so is the Trump security personnel.
Yeah. Well, we kind of knew that anyway, right?
All law enforcement to look for.
Like you had people in the crowd going, look, there's a gunman on that building over there, and 20 minutes later he shot him.
We're able to contain it using some of our bigger vehicles that we use for specialized stops. We got the vehicle stopped. Since then, the FBI and the Secret Service have responded to the scene. It does appear.
Well, it is interesting that like
we-
this is the
we certainly
future.
had the vehicle.
This is the
involved in
future
this
of
Mar-a-Lago,
kind of
and we
pivotal
have
world
suspects
events
that they were
is
looking for.
people who know what
And
they're
now the
talking
FBI
about
and the Secret
discussing the
Service will
facts
take
of the
over that
case,
investigation.
and then little faces in the corner going, "Oh, isn't this interesting?"
Basically, yeah.
Did you
We are
The
at the
revolution will
cutting
not be
edge.
televised, but it will be streamed.
Yeah, we are the cutting
We
edge
initially took him
of a
into
new
custody and
media
kept him
wave,
until the
everybody.
arrival of the
Absolutely.
Which is why you should give us
Picturing-
money in the form of
Certain
bits and
people,
subscriptions and
looking for any weapons
memberships.
that may be in there will now be
Yeah,
up
this is
to the
like
federal authorities and
picturing like
US Attorney General.
the
And then
the October Revolution with like fucking XQC in the bottom
I know
corner.
you were out
Yeah,
on
wow,
looking
wow,
for him.
wow,
Every
chat,
law
have you seen
enforcement
this?
agency around
Oh,
this
they're storming
area
the
was.
Winter
What was
Palace.
the
Oh,
process like
chat,
for you guys here in
whoa!
I missed the stop. I was on
was
the way from home,
crazy.
of course. It sounded very tense on the radio. We knew that we had a bolo. Be on the lookout for somebody who had opened fire on the President of the United States. I would say there's probably not a more volatile, potentially dangerous situation.
Then Hassan pipes up with, look, the Romanovs deserved it, okay? Fact.
I'm saying it, dude.
Exactly.
There'd been a gunfight. We were ready to
In a video
engage.
game.
Thankfully, because of good tactics.
Can
stopping the
Rasputin
car
admit
from
he's
stop, getting
lying?
him out of the
Literally
vehicle,
fucking lying
and
to his
back us.
audience?
We were able to stabilize the scene without any further violence.
And that was the Martin County Sheriff William Snyder speaking to journalists there.
So,
and I just want to remind
did he
you
shoot
of
the
the
sheriff?
reporting that we have coming in from our US partners
Or did he shoot
CBS
the deputy?
on this incident at the Trump golf course in Florida. They say, reportable per multiple law enforcement officials to CBS, the suspect involved in this incident was in the tree line armed with an AK-47 rifle. They're going to
So not a
say the
sniper
armed
then.
suspect
Communist.
was spotted on the
Yeah.
edge of the course by a member of former President Trump's US Secret Service advance team, 2 holes ahead from where the president was golfing. CBS says the suspect fled the scene after he was engaged by a Secret Service agent with multiple gunshots. The suspect jumped into a car. Secret Service noted the license plate number. A car with the same license plate number was stopped in Martin County, as we were hearing from William Snyder there.
Oh, he is in
north of
custody,
the gun
okay.
course, and one individual was taken into custody. It's unclear if it is the gunman, but it's believed to be. Law enforcement are questioning that individual now. An AK-47 style weapon and scope has been recovered at the scene by the golf course. And a reminder that we also have a statement that has come in from the former President Donald Trump following the incident earlier today. He writes, "There were gunshots in my vicinity, but before rumors start spiraling out of control, I wanted you to hear this first. I am safe and well. Nothing will slow me down. I will never surrender. I will always love you for supporting
Except when you
me." So
surrendered
that's
to the
a
police that
statement
time.
coming in from President Trump following that incident. Well, earlier I spoke to former Secret
Thing
Service
is, as well-
agent.
Well,
Robert-
you'd
actually,
say
we-
the fact that he's been taken alive means you know he's white. 100%.
True. Very 100% true, 100%. Well, as well, what's funny about this is, like, imagine if he actually did end up dying. Jay-Z Vance might be the fucking president.
Mental.
Imagine that. That if there's anything worse than Trump president.
Everything. All right. So when we get done, think about your questions because we're not going to take a lot, and keep them to the information that you heard. Don't get into what ifs and because of this. We're not going to go there. All right. So keep that in mind.
All right,
and
Boomer.
we'll be good.
Fuck's sake.
So here we go. All right, 1:30 this afternoon. Call came out, shots fired. That was called in by the Secret Service. Because we're in constant contact with them all the time, we were notified of that, and we had units here that immediately sealed off the area. Fortunately, we were able to locate a witness that came to us and said, "Hey, I saw the guy running out of the bushes. He jumped into a black Nissan, and I took a picture of the vehicle and the tag," which was great.
Mental.
So
I'm sorry,
we had that
I
information.
can't
Our real-time crime center
find
put it out.
an American
to
saying the word
the
vehicle. Not
license
funny.
Vehicle.
It
And
literally
we were able to
reminds
get
me
a
of
hit on that
the moment
vehicle
in
on I-95
Meet. Is it Meet the
as it was
Fuck? It
headed
is
into
Meet the
Martin County.
Fuckers, was
We got a hold of
remain
Martin County
in your
Sheriff's
vehicle.
Office, alerted them,
That's
and they
all I can
spotted the
think of.
vehicle
It's literally all I can think
and
of.
pulled it over and detained the guy. After that, we took the victim,
Bilderberg,
the
is that
witness that witnessed the incident,
a brass eye
flew him up
reference there?
and he identified as the person that he saw running out of the bushes and jumped into the car. Now, in the bushes where this guy was is a AK-47 style rifle with a scope, 2 backpacks which were hung on the fence that had ceramic tile in them, and a GoPro, which he was going to take pictures of. So those are being processed right now. The Secret Service agent that was on the course did a fantastic job. What they do is they have an agent that jumps one hole ahead of time to where the president was at. And he was able to spot this rifle barrel sticking out of the fence and immediately engage that individual, at which time the individual took off. So that's what we know about the investigation. We have somebody in custody right now that is a potential suspect. We got a little bit more work to do on it, but as we usually do, as soon as we decide that we're going to book him into the county jail and the charges that he's going to be booked into, we'll get those to you and we'll get a picture of him and we'll get you his background. So now I'm going to turn it over to the representative of the Secret Service, and he's going to make a brief statement.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I first want to thank all of our law enforcement partners, to include the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office and the Martin County Sheriff's Office, for their involvement today. Former President Donald Trump is safe and unharmed following a protective incident shortly before 2 p.m. on Sunday at Trump International Golf Club at West Palm Beach. The U.S. Secret Service personnel opened fire on a gunman located near the property line, and this matter is under investigation. I'll turn it over to my partners over at the FBI.
That was absolutely pointless.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jeffrey Veltri. I'm the special agent in charge of the FBI's Miami field office. The FBI has assumed the role as the lead federal law enforcement agency in the investigation of the incident that occurred earlier today at Trump International Golf Course here in West Palm Beach, Florida. We've deployed a number of resources, including investigative teams, crisis response team members, bomb technicians, and evidence response team members as well. What we need right now is for the public to avoid the area around the golf course. We will continue to support this investigation with the full resources of the FBI, alongside our partners with the United States Secret Service and the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, as well as Martin County Sheriff's Office and state and local law enforcement. I would ask that if anyone has any information that may assist with this investigation, to contact our tip line at 1-800-CALL-FBI or at tips.
What?
That's TIPS.
Hang on a minute.
FBI.
Well, rewind 1 second.
Thank you.
What? Hang on, you want me to rewind?
No,
Tips?
just metaphorically
metaphorically,
rewinding.
sorry.
I am Dave
But
Ehrenberg,
did he say that the
State Attorney
phone
for
number
Palm
for
Beach
the
County.
FBI
I
is
wanna
like
thank Sheriff Bradshaw
0800
and our
call
partners at the local,
FBI?
state, and federal levels.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, it's actually
because
0800
our
Mix-a-Lot,
prosecutors are currently working up
which
warrants
was initially
and a
about
motion for
arse-based
pretrial detention
inquiries,
for the
but
suspect.
now is used by the
And
FBI.
that way he will be kept in custody. But our filing of these warrants and charges at the state level does not preclude federal charges that could be coming. But in the meantime, it looks like the warrants and the pretrial detention motion will happen first. And again, I want to thank the cooperation we've had with our federal partners and at the local level. And thank you all for being here today.
Okay, we're going to make these pictures available to you. It'll show you a picture of the backpack and the rifle. And there's also a GoPro on the fence there where he was intent on filming what was going on.
Literally, just like chat. I'm about to assassinate the former president.
Yeah, if we get onto a hype train, I will shoot the
We've got a
president.
post office, a library, and a school down the street.
This is a
So we'll
satirical
make it
comment on that, by the way.
convenient
We're not
for you to
actually
get to all the
saying
places
this
you need
bit.
to
Yes,
go.
no, I'm not
It's to
actually.
get to
I'm
school,
suggesting that's
get
what
over
he
here
was
to the
saying.
post office or wherever
Yeah.
else you need to go. It's safe. There's no more danger here, and we'll make it very convenient for you. So having said that, we're going to take a very limited amount of questions, and you can direct them to who you want to answer the question.
Sheriff, did this individual make any statements as he was being detained?
No statement right now as far as his involvement in the incident, and there's further investigation to be completed.
What was his demeanor like?
Yeah, I'm not sure if the first gentleman answered. I misunderstood, or I couldn't quite understand. So there was a rifle, so one of your agents...
Hey! Pause 1 sec.
What we got?
I've just been raided by James, who is from the internet. Welcome in all 139
Oh, that fucking
of you.
cunt.
Appreciate. Hey-oh. Welcome in, welcome in. I'm streaming with Kevin Logan, by the way, in case the Brummy accent didn't tip you off about my
Everyone get
co-host.
the James doing the wanker hand emote. It's the best emote on
Absolutely.
Twitch.
Let's see the James from the internet wanker hand emotes fly in chat. Let's go. Let's see him. But yeah, welcome in, Raiders. You're through the No Justice stream. We talk mostly about UK politics 5 or 6 days a week. But unfortunately, you can't escape American politics because someone's been fucking shooting at Trump again. Because of course they have, because America's
And missed.
And missed, because not only is America crazy in terms of the fact that just these things just seem to happen so frequently now. Well, on top of that, they're also terrible marksmen as well.
Yeah.
So we're covering the Trump incident.
Supposedly, you allowed guns to be a well-regulated militia. 0 for 2 does not suggest well-regulated militia to me.
Yeah, fucking completely ass militia. But absolutely, we are covering this. Everyone in my chat, YouTube and Twitch, please go and follow twitch.tv/James from the internet. It's going to get excellent lefty news over on Twitch from an American perspective. And of course, if you've just raided in, you already know him, but in case you do not know him, please go and follow KFLogan1875 on Twitch or at Ploppy111 over on YouTube.
What's up,
for
bitches?
all of the Kevin Logan based goodness you could ever want, right?
True.
From the man who destroyed Milo Yiannopoulos' career.
Well, talking of single-handedly destroying Milo Yiannopoulos' career, did you see he was back up, popped his head back up about Laura Loomer, going on about her being the supposedly the throat goat now? That was
She's the new throat goat. She's literally the new throat goat. There you go.
Yeah, apparently that was him breaking that news. I say news.
Yeah. But also, people who don't
Gossip.
know, the UK viewers might not know this, but why was Nancy Reagan known as the throat goat? Where does this come from? But this is where this is a reference to.
Yeah, well, apparently she was well known for sucking off actors back in the day when she was younger, which is apparently how she got into Ronald's good graces. And yeah, she was well known as a. We used to refer to people like that as shiners back in the day. Yeah, she liked to suck a dick.
Was there evidence for this, or was this just?
Well, that was the story that went around.
hearsay?
I have no idea. I don't know, but either way, apparently she had the gluck-gluck 9000 going on. Yeah.
It was a reputation. Well, yeah, I guess if there's no evidence, but it was known in the background. Apparently, it was the word on the street. But
Yes.
yeah, now Laura Loomer is. Yeah, apparently she's banging Trump now.
Yeah, which but that would be like getting head from Chucky. Like, who's into that? Really?
Oh dear Lord.
That is correct, yes.
Nancy Reagan was the original Hawk tour. Absolutely.
It was 1 or 2 holes behind. That because the bubble.
She was spitting on that thing before your granddad was born.
So our agents will get there first, clear it. He noticed that the rifle was pointed out. Our agents engaged. We are not sure right now if
Your
the
agents
individual was
engaged?
able to take a shot at our agents. But for sure,
Oh,
our
they've gone
agents were
woke.
able to engage with the subject. I don't know that. The Pearson. Yep. Al.
How far away was the president? How far away was Donald Trump when this gentleman was caught and stopped?
Probably between 300 and 500 yards, but with a rifle and a scope like that, that's not a long distance.
So he was within range again then? Fucking hell.
How far was your agent from the would-be assailant?
That I'm not sure right now. We're still looking into it.
Reports of the 4 rounds of ammunition were fired. Were all 4 of those in your agent?
That is correct. 4 to 6. We're not sure yet.
Was there a long distance?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Well, Becca, I'm glad that that's an ex-boyfriend, because that sounds horrendous.
Say that one more time and talk up a little bit.
So, how was this able to happen, and for future reference, is there any other security of the golf course?
Well, you got to understand the golf course is surrounded by shrubbery, so when somebody gets into the shrubbery, they're pretty much out of sight.
Shrubbery!
Right? And at this level that
Shrubbery!
he is at right now, he's not the sitting president. If he was, we would have had this entire golf course around it.
Well, that was just like, yeah, we are the most well-funded security force on the planet in history, in human history. We're the most well-funded and well-equipped security force. Unfortunately, the guy hid in the bushes, so
yeah,
exactly.
But the Secret Service did exactly what they should have done. They provided exactly what the protection should have been, and their agent did a fantastic job.
Which direction was the shrubbery? Was north, south? I guess east, west, and south of the road?
The layout of the golf course, you've got 3 holes, 5, 6, and 7. All right, one of them runs parallel to Summit Boulevard.
One is a dog leg left to right. You're going to hear a good fade into the green,
where he could see both holes. So the president was another hole back, which means he's about between 400 and 500 yards away.
So he was on the golf course?
Oh, he's on the golf course, yeah, but he's back a ways.
For the Secret Service, have you guys changed at all? The former President Donald Trump is now a potential second attempt on him. Can you just elaborate on how things have changed?
To be fair, they can't stop people attempting stuff.
Yes, the threat level
Attempted
is high.
murder? Attempted murder? Why not give me a Nobel Prize for attempted chemistry?
Exactly.
So we are...
Like, nutters are going to try and do shit, and due to good fortune on their part, they've escaped twice having fucked up.
I just want to tell you, the Secret Service and the FBI and the State Attorney's Office have been fantastic to work with. And I can tell you right now, our agency with this real-time crime center was fabulous. That's how we
I wouldn't have wanted to
started
have
out
dealt
with.
with an assassination
We don't know
of
anything
any other
to
people.
where we had a tag, we had a vehicle description, and we got an area where we saw the person.
Thank
So
you for
be
the £10
proud-
super
be
chat,
proud of your law
Sergey.
enforcement. All right, thanks, folks. We'll get back to you.
Well, that was basically fucking pointless.
Yeah, like literally they said, there was a guy, we lost him, and then we found him.
Although at least this
He was
time
in the-
he did
was
hide in the bushes. The other guy wasn't even hiding; he was just on a building.
Yeah, like he was so bad at hiding that people in the crowd could see him and pointed him out.
Yeah.
And the Secret Service was still like, "Duh, I don't know where the guy with the gun is."
True, and they said it in that accent, which was very weird. Yeah, but yeah, yeah, at least this time, like, to be fair, it is difficult to see through a bush unless you've got X-ray vision, right? So on this particular occasion, there is at least some mitigating circumstance.
I
God.
still found it very funny that their defense was, well, he hid in the bush. So
He
we
hid in
couldn't
the
see him.
bush. Yeah.
Foolproof methods
then
to avoid capture by the FBI.
He managed to drive off the property. Do they not have security at the gate? How did he get off the property? What the fuck is this?
To be honest, I bet you do because of how how Trump kind of spoke actually pretty dismissively about, like, not just the military but the Secret Service as well. I'm sure a lot of the FBI are just like, well, he doesn't give a shit about us. Why should we give a shit about him?
Yeah.
Well, we'll quiet quit. We'll quiet quit being his security detail.
Yeah, exactly.
Do only the minimum required to keep your job.
Well, exactly. Well, he won't need us to guard him when he's fucking dead. So he gets what he wants in the end, doesn't he?
Jim Speak says it's actually legal. You have to yell 4 before you do your standing your ground. It's true.
True. That is literally true. Yeah.
Is there more information that the government can share this morning at this stage?
I know as much as you do. It's awful. It's a further...
There's a joke in there, and I can't quite pluck it out, but it's something to do with the good thing about Trump is something about putting a hole in one, like putting a hole in a president or something. But the phrase "hole in one," that there's something to do with that. Someone can work that out behind the scenes.
Loss of life. What I can say is actually before I left for Ukraine with Tony Blinken, I sat with the Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, the Attorney General and others at the National Crime Agency, actually looking at the awful sort of rubber dinghies that people are coming across the channel with. Many
So
of
open,
them, of
safe and
course,
legal
not able to make it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but they're coming over now on your watch. That's on you. You're the one making them do that.
They could literally open safe and legal routes and just tell nobody. They could open safe and legal routes and tell nobody, and the boats would stop tomorrow.
Yeah.
It'd be super easy to do. No political fallout. Just all the boats stopped. No, we didn't do anything. Yeah, just the boat stopped. They stopped. The stops.
To be fair, I think people would cotton on eventually and look into it. I think people would find out. Yeah.
But this, like, again, this is the obvious way, the obvious solution.
Yeah.
In these contraptions, discussing how we go after those gangs in cooperation upstream with other European partners. And I know that the Prime Minister will be in Italy tomorrow with Prime Minister Meloni discussing.
Yeah, he's going to have a nice discussion about immigration with a fascist. Yippee.
Literally the person who belongs to the party that descends from the party of Benito Mussolini. Yeah, I'm sure they're going to have a really good policy on irregular migration.
It's pronounced Benito Mazzilli.
Benito.
Okay.
Sorry, that clip's too fucking funny.
It is good. It is good.
Oh,
discussing these issues and the work that they've done, particularly with
far-right
We
authorisation.
can confirm now that 8 people have lost their lives. But what do you think the chances are of the UK following the kind of model that Italy has done by sending migrants that arrive illegally to Albania? Because it's had some success there. Do you have an appetite to follow that example?
Well, they have a comprehensive scheme with Albania, understanding that Balkans route, as well as the Channel and the southern Mediterranean, are routes with which migrants use. So, of course, because it's reduced the numbers, we are interested in discussing with Italy the schemes that they develop, not just with Albania, but upstream schemes with Syria and Libya.
It's not an issue.
Well,
It's
we'll
not an
see
issue.
what
Not an
happens in the
issue.
next few days on that after the Prime Minister's meeting with Giorgia Meloni. Let's then turn to Ukraine. Now, you've said that Ukraine should get everything.
I just want to reiterate what we're talking about here. Just 2 people on the morning chat show on the Sunday going, "It's terrible, those people died in the Channel." Anyway, I hear you've been talking to some Nazis recently. That all sounds well and good, doesn't it? Well, I hope plenty of good things come from your meeting with the Nazi woman in Italy. And this isn't a problem. She's just like, literally, the party's descended from fucking Benito Mussolini. This isn't a lie. It's 100% true. The woman's a literal neo-Nazi.
True. Hello there, Story Girl. Everyone go and follow Story Girl immediately.
It needs to win. President Zelensky is very clear that includes long-range missiles given by the Western allies being allowed to be fired into Russia. So should he have permission, you could do it now, to do that.
Well, look, just to step back, it was hugely important for me to be there with Tony Blinken this week.
Tony!
This is the first visit that a US Secretary of State...
Oh, Secretary of State, friend. Yeah.
Oh, friends! Oh, friend! Oh, nuclear war Holocaust friend! Yeah.
And the Foreign Secretary have made
poking the bear
together
friend.
for
Genocide
well over 15
friend.
years. And it was important because as we head out of the autumn and into the winter, with Putin firing horrendously on the energy supplies.
To be fair, firing horrendously has been the fucking story of today, hasn't it? Jesus. Ugh.
True. If there's one thing, that Putin and Trump share, is I guess these are on opposite sides. Trump is being shot at, and Putin's the one doing a lot of the shooting. So either way,
poor marksmanship. The West has fallen. I'm just saying it.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely. The they-them army not working, it's failing.
Killing civilians now in Lviv and Provosk. it's hugely important that we understand and support Ukraine with the strategy to win going into next spring. And that's why we headed out to the White House as well. Now, the important thing is the money, and the money
You
right
weren't
through
asked about-
2025.
David,
we pledged
David!
$3 billion for military.
You were asked specifically about the use of what are they called, Storm Shadow missiles,
Something like
being
that,
used
yeah.
to strike into Russian territory. We don't, most people in this country already agree about the diplomatic and military support. Where we draw the line is sending weapons to be used with authorization to strike in Russian territory.
Yes. Indeed. And that, look, he's obviously going to try not to answer the question. That's what politicians do, and especially this guy. Like, he's so obviously devoid of any integrity whatsoever.
Mm.
I mean, they all are, to be fair, but like he doesn't even hide it very well. Literally, he's pivoted from being vaguely based on things to getting into government and be like, yay Saudi Arabia and yay Israel, woo!
October 7th was bad.
Zelensky, of course, wants missiles. We've pledged another 650 Brimstone missiles. He wants munitions. We've sent the munitions. He wanted more artillery. We've sent AS-90 guns. And of course, he's been raising the issue about the long-range missiles particularly now for well over a year. And it is important that we are discussing this with allies and understanding how this would or would not contribute to the strategy to repel Putin as we head into the
President Zelensky is very clear. This is something that he needs. And he has been, as you've just said, asking for this for around a year. He says he needs it to win. You said he must have everything he needs to win. So will you give permission? You could go it alone. The British government could say, yes, now, will you?
There are two aspects to that. The first is that it's important that as allies supporting Ukraine, we have a shared strategy to win going forward. Now, we've been discussing this with the United States.
Why is he doing the claw? It's mesmerising.
And with other key allies, but of course we head to the UN General Assembly, where we will all meet with Zelensky in just under 12 days' time.
But the point here, Foreign Secretary, as we've heard from a former incredibly serious senior military man, General McCall, in the studio this morning, it is disappointing that the action hasn't been taken yet. We've heard it from President Zelensky himself. He wrote this week, it is difficult to repeatedly hear we are working on this while Putin continues to burn down our towns and villages. Isn't the delay emboldening Putin?
No war is won with any one weapon. That is the case.
But this weapon might make a difference.
And it's important that we support the Ukrainians to continue to repel Russia in the Black Sea. It's important that they can deal with the huge challenges in the air that are being mounted by Russia, and of course that we support them, and we have, with training of their own men and women on the front line, 45,000 we've trained, more than I think any other nation.
And there's no dispute about the fact that there has been a lot of help.
No one weapon wins any war and has won any war.
But this is about the pace at which help is supplied, because our viewers know there's a pattern here.
Like,
We've
okay,
talked about it for the
pause
last
one
few
sec,
years.
Kev. So, when did this interview start? How far into the programme did this interview start?
Pretty much straight away. Oh no, they had a little talk, so like 7 minutes.
She's been speaking for a whole 5 fucking minutes, and we still don't know whether or not we should or we shouldn't be sending them Storm Shadow missiles to be able to attack targets in Russia.
Well, because
one very simple question with a very simple answer, and we still have no idea.
Well, because his new friend Tony, missile friend, it hasn't told him what the answer is yet. So we fundamentally do not have an independent foreign policy. So
yeah, exactly.
Brexit benefits.
Zelensky asked for tanks in 2022. They arrived from the US in September 2023. Ukraine asked for missiles again in 2022. They arrived in April 24. He asked for fighter jets early last year. He got them last month. And for all that pace is going, perhaps I can understand, as you're saying, you want to work with allies and work it all through. But the pace of that has meant that the war has continued with terrible loss of life on both sides. And surely you must accept that that allows Putin to carry on as he sees fit.
Well, because I was in the role as shadow spokesman on foreign affairs and I was in Ukraine prior to the war, let me say this also. Many said that Ukraine would last 3 days. And it's because of that combined support by the Allies that we have confounded those critics. Yes, many said that, and Putin said, don't give them tanks. We didn't listen to that. We have supported Ukraine with tanks. Don't give them UAVs. We supported Ukraine with missiles. They needed more shells. We're doing that as well. This request from Zelensky for long-range missiles is a long-standing request. He's been making it now for well over a year. What is important is that allies are able to come together with President Zelensky and the Ukrainians to assess what's needed now. And given the advances in Kursk, given the desire to keep Provosk, clearly Ukraine has taken back half of the territory that Russia took in the Donbass, again a major advance. We want to put Ukraine in the strongest position going forward. I can't tell you operationally on air what we will or won't do, and I particularly won't do that at a time when Russia is buying ballistic missiles from Iran and escalating further. But
if you don't know, right,
this is under careful discussion.
So if you don't know whether or not we should or shouldn't be delivering arms to Ukraine for them to be able to use missiles to strike in Russian territory, what the fuck were you doing talking with Tony, your mate Tony Blinken? What the hell were you doing all that time when you're supposedly talking about this very specific issue? And you go here going, well, I can't tell you, we've not made any decisions yet. What were you doing? What were you doing?
Talking about boys. Talking about boys they like. And whether they're going to get taken to the dance. Yeah. No, I mean, it's fucking... we'll get into it later, but look, this entire government is just fucking shit. And I know that's not like advanced political, philosophy there, but they're incapable of even relatively straightforward function, like having a conversation and coming to a resolution and then deciding a policy.
This is exactly, because he did the exact same prevarication when he was interviewed on this very same show about war crimes in Palestine. Just literally just refused to answer a question. Yeah. It's again, it's really, I think it's just really frustrating in general. Again, one of the biggest problems we have is the distrust and the dislike of our politicians and the disengagement with politics as well, broadly. Yeah. And this is because people think the politicians are all the same, and we just have the same fucking people who refuse to bother actually answering questions in an insane and simple way. This literally allows people like Nigel Farage who do straight talk to be able to circumvent proper scrutiny, because people will just support and go, well, he talks straight to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't beat around the bush that old Nigel doesn't. How about you have somebody who's both truthful and also honest and sincere, whilst also not being around the bush?
Well, again, student politics, terrible.
Yes, student politics, yeah.
With the Ukrainians as we assess what they need as they head into that winter.
And there's so much we want to talk to you about as Foreign Secretary, but just before we move on, do you think Putin is lying when he threatens that there would be nuclear consequences if that request is granted?
I think that what Putin's doing is throwing dust up into the air. There's a lot of bluster. That's his modus operandi. He threatens about tanks. He threatens about missiles. He threatens about nuclear weapons. And we cannot be blown off course by an imperialist fascist, effectively, that wants to move into countries willy-nilly. And if we let him with Ukraine, believe me, he will not stop there.
Then listen to the passion of that, and listen to the mealy-mouthed bullshit he'll say about Israel. Which is doing the same fucking thing.
Get the fuck back him, not bloody mutants!
Thank you, Zakap, for Raid Arena ring.
Oh, it's Raid Central this evening, isn't it?
Well, Raid's up in this biatch. Hello there, everybody from the Zach Up. Right, everyone go and follow Zach Up immediately, otherwise there will be consequences. No, there won't. But anyway, I'm Kevin Logan, a socialist from the UK. You can hit the follow button. I'm also joined by a communoid of the highest order, No Justice MTG. You should go and check
Absolutely.
her out.
Welcome.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go.
Hello. Welcome into the chat, the Sigmas of Australia.
True. And don't tell them what I was saying about Australians earlier. We don't need to mention it. It's fine.
You've already travelled to Israel twice, I believe, and the situation in the Middle East is a huge concern. No one can forget the horror of what happened to Israelis in October last year, nor can no one be unaffected
Yeah, because you keep fucking mentioning it every 5 minutes. Yeah, we can't forget. True.
seeing the images of what's happened in Gaza. You have repeatedly called for a ceasefire. There's no sign of progress towards that. Do you believe there can be a ceasefire for as long as Benjamin Netanyahu is in charge in Israel?
Well, look, let me repeat today my call that we need a ceasefire and it must happen now. I've been saying that since December. The reason I keep going back to the region and of course speaking to the Egyptian, the Qataris particularly have roots into Hamas, is to try and bring that about. Now, in discussion with President Biden and Tony Blinken, they believe that the deal is 90% there.
90%?
It's there.
Whoa.
This is a deal
Shut
that
up,
can
David. I'm sorry. I mean, either this man is lying or he is a credulous buffoon. There is not 90% of a ceasefire deal. There is 0% of a ceasefire deal because Benjamin Netanyahu will not agree to a ceasefire deal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
if you do not acknowledge this basic fact, you are lying to the public.
Well, yeah, he's lying, yes. I think he knows damn well that that's the case. I think everyone knows that Benjamin Netanyahu is the stumbling block. Now, of course, there are others. There are plenty of Zionists who are happy to throw, a spanner in the works. But he is ultimately the thing that will prevent anything from happening.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
But yes, you're absolutely right. In the end, it comes down to Bibi Netanyahu and it comes down to Sinwar. I have to say, the murder of those beautiful 6 young hostages at this stage was just devastating and awful. But I say to Hamas and of course to Netanyahu, let us accept the deal. Let's move into phase 1 and begin the negotiation.
You mean how the Palestinians have agreed to at least 2 different deals at this point? What are you talking about?
Either stop saying we need a ceasefire. What are you going to do to try and twist the arm of Netanyahu? You're going to go full McDonnell and you're going to ask to write him a very strongly worded letter. Unless you agree to the ceasefire deal, we'll be very angry and we will write you a letter telling you how angry we are.
Basically, yeah. Because again, it's his friend Tony that's really calling the shots.
True, and apparently, and also the news has broken that 3 hostages died because they were hit with an Israeli airstrike.
Massive shock. I am shocked by that news. Gambling in this establishment? Surely not.
That head, of course, to the proper security that Israel needs, but also the Palestinian state that is a just cause of the Palestinian people.
As you've mentioned a lot, your talks with the White House and your counterpart, Tony Blinken, and I know you follow American politics very closely. Of course, any British government would always work with whoever is in the White House, and I know that you have said that before. But Donald Trump, who's running again, made claims that were not true this week about Haitian immigrants in Ohio eating pets. There have now been...
They're eating the dogs! The dogs!
Did you see the Simpsons Maison Derriere remix?
I did, yeah.
Of Trump saying that. It was brilliant. It was brilliant.
Unbelievable. He's memes, if nothing else.
Oh, yeah, that's true. He's absolutely peak memes. That's one thing you definitely get.
Bomb threats against schools in Springfield, in Ohio, because of what he said, mentioning Haitians. What do you think about that kind of campaigning?
I'm here as Foreign Secretary America is one of the most robust democracies in the world. They have a lively debate.
This is more than a lively debate, though, isn't it?
Laura, you've got
Well,
Piers
isn't
Morgan on
robust.
the panel.
It's
I'm
breaking. People. One of the claims that's being made very specifically is that a Trump presidency could upend American democracy. If one man can just go, "Lol, democracy is over," it doesn't sound very robust to me.
No, sounds rather flimsy.
Yeah.
Sure, he'll give you his view. I'm not going to give you mine, and the reason I'm not going to give you mine is because just coming out of a general election, I was not keen to hear American politicians
coming out of a general election where I also didn't give any opinions.
Yeah, literally, during election campaign where I refused to call out racism because that would mean pissing off racists who might vote for me, and then after the election I refused to call other political figures who are clearly racist because I might have to get a sweetheart trade deal with them because of the Brexit we won't reverse.
Yeah.
On our politics, and we have a pretty robust politics as well. So that is the position. You can push me, but I'm not going to stray into the American democracy and the ups and downs that I've been following for well over 30 years. All American elections, lots of things get said. That is a matter for them.
But Foreign Secretary, isn't this more than the normal ups and downs of campaigning?
There were
This is a man who wants
KKK
to get back to the
in
White House.
Springfield.
Yeah, literally neo-Nazi fucking things with a phone number, which was interesting. Attached.
Two people and their child were fucking hit with a car.
Well, he's not going to give you an opinion. Why would he do that? What do you think he is, a
I'm the
politician?
Foreign Secretary. It's not my opinion to comment on the obvious racism that's happening.
Yeah.
Who has been circulating claims that appear to be causing harm to people, and making claims that are not true. You're a lifelong campaigner against racism. I think people watching this morning would hope that...
Yeah, but now he's got a chauffeur-driven car and a red box to carry around. So now racism,
True.
who gives a fuck? That can be sold as well. My conviction, my lifelong conviction against racism can also be bought and sold. Because I am David Lammy, a piece of shit.
Would call this out for what it appears to be.
We've been talking about lives in Ukraine and about lives in Gaza and in the Middle East, those hostages that are still held. That is the sober reality of being the UK Foreign Secretary. The ups and downs of the American political system, the language that used is a matter for them. I will work with whomever the Americans...
No matter how racist they
produce
are. I mean, you're
as
already
their-
fucking working with Georgia Maloney, and she's
Well, exactly,
far more
yeah.
right-wing than Donald Trump is.
Exactly. Donald Trump is a progressive by comparison, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
and of
He
course,
ran a
the
campaign where he held
eventual
up a pride flag with LGBTs for Trump on it. Not that that meant anything. Would you think George Maloney would do that?
No.
State for the interests of global security.
Okay, people will hear loud and clear that you don't want to touch that with a barge pole. They'll make their own mind up as to whether or not they would like our senior politicians to take a stand. I must just lastly ask you about something else that's happening in politics here. The Labour Party for the last few years has made a lot of play of misdemeanours or bad standards or bad behaviour in the Conservative Party. What are our viewers meant to think when they see that the Prime Minister didn't declare outfits that were given to his wife by a wealthy donor properly? What are they meant to think of that?
Well, look, I would say to them that the Prime Minister did declare funds that he received from Lord Alley. He's then gone back to the Parliamentary Commissioner to further check details on some of those funds that have made their way to his wife. So he has done that, and he is seeking to comply with the rules. So this is not an issue of...
Same thing as what I said before when we looked at the James Murray clip. Same thing as what I said before. I couldn't give two shits, a single solitary shit even, whether or not the rules have been followed.
Yeah.
Because the rules are not the arbiter of morality, the law isn't the arbiter of ethics. The issue here is, do you think it is ethical, or do you, or even outside of ethics, do you think it's good optics? Do you think it's good optics for the Prime Minister, who's on a salary of £160,000 a year, should be getting schmoozed by Labour millionaire lords by buying them clothes, or by also getting gifts from loads of other places, such as hospitality from Google, or access to football boxes, or being given tickets to music festivals from tech giants, right? Do you think that that is, first of all, do you think it's optically good for these people to be allowed to just kind of swim in freebies like Scrooge McDuck diving into the pile of dollar coins? Or do you actually maybe think that if you've got all of that money that the state pays you, the public money that you get paid for your job as the role of Prime Minister, that maybe if you really want your wife to have nice dresses, you should be able to pay that out of your own salary, rather than have what is essentially, what this Lord Ali, is essentially a sugar daddy.
Yes.
He is the Keir Starmer sugar daddy. Yeah. And if anything, everything that we have understood, right? Because I think the main point that was being put about the Conservative Party being in hock with the rich people isn't necessarily that makes them evil or bad or that they've broken the rules. It was that they're out of touch. It is that these people, they don't live normal people's lives. They spend their entirety of their existence, especially as politicians, just having black tie dinners, drinking champagne with the richest people in the world, and they do not know what it's like for normal people. Do you not make it even, does not sound even more ridiculous that a knight of the realm, as leader of the the party of working people, as described in Labour Party's Twitter bio, for example, on £160,000 a year, getting financial hand shandies from millionaires, going off to do like shopping trips for his wife. Yeah. Isn't this so embarrassing to you?
It's ridiculous. Honestly, I thought, given how strongly they played on the ending Tory corruption thing, that they'd keep it in their pants for 5 minutes. That they obviously were going to do corruption because they're fucking it's the same Tories as the other Tories. But I thought they'd keep it in their pants for a bit. But literally from the get-go, before he'd even really become Prime Minister, or well, technically he was Prime Minister, but before he'd been in Parliament properly or anything like that, he was already having this guy given access to Downing Street. He was already having political appointments to supposedly non-political roles in the civil service. He's obviously being bought and paid for left, right, and centre with all of these goodies. It's so blatant to the very core of what they are is corrupt and self-serving. And I genuinely didn't think it would take this little amount of time for that to come to the fore. I thought they'd be able to hide it a lot better than this. And the fact that the excuses are being made here, that, well, he doesn't necessarily have the money to do this. Motherfucker, you get paid a salary. And we know from your tax declarations that you earned over you paid tax on over $2 million, or £2 million, earned from a supposedly blind-run investment account in America, right? I'll be interested to see how blind that blind account is actually, given his corruption, but whatever. So we know that you're actually quite a wealthy man. And it's especially galling that a man who's saying that we need to live inside of our means, that we need to freeze pensioners in order that Britain can balance the books, and yet he's not balancing his own books. The one area there where apparently you don't have to live with inside your means is his means.
Next, he's got people with loads of money on hand to just dole that out to them. Pensioners who may not have enough money in the bank to be able to cover their winter fuel because they've not got the winter fuel payment because they're just above the line for pension credit. You're SOL, unfortunately.
Yep.
You're up shit creek without the winter fuel payment. And yet he's here, you're literally getting gifts and all of these different things, all of these different levels of hospitality, more than any other Labour leader since 1997. Even Tony Blair didn't get schmoozed by rich people as much as Keir Starmer has.
Exactly.
Clearly having his fingers in all of the pies.
Well, Blair sort of kept it under wraps a little bit initially. It wasn't until Mandelson started doing his thing a couple of years in, they started getting obvious. But yet, after the years of Tory sleaze, they knew coming into government in '97 they were going to have to try and keep it clean a bit. And so they did try, sort of, at the start. Whereas with these motherfuckers, they've just come in and gone, everyone for himself, rumble, into corruption.
They have. And there was even an article in The Guardian that said that they had heard from a source of a long-time kind of Labour Party bigwig scoffing at the idea that this wasn't the thing that you just did. What were you saying? It's bad that we just stuff our cronies everywhere? You're supposed to stuff the cronies everywhere. Why is everyone getting mad? You attacked the Tories over this.
Yeah.
People are getting mad over this because your political position was to say that this was undermining the political process, doing the cronyism with the political appointments, with the Lord's appointments, with the people who donate all of this money. Again, like all of the hay made over Boris Johnson's wallpaper, whilst of course is showing the kind of level to which he was out of touch with regular people, but it is 0% different. 0% different between the Boris Johnson wallpaper and the Keir Starmer's wife being bought dresses. And the Liberals, they will not do the same criticism to both. They will not levy the same criticisms because Boris Johnson is the floppy hair Brexit bad man and Keir Starmer is Mr. Rules, which is what he called himself in the run-up to the election.
He's the sensible. The sensibles are back in charge. And now it's proper corruption, not bad corruption. Yeah.
And like the worst part, the most dangerous part of all of this, is that the iconoclastic ascendant figure in UK politics at the moment is Nigel Farage, right? The man who paints himself as being different to everybody else in terms of the politicians that everybody is sick of. Everyone's sick of politicians. Trust is an all-time low. Nigel Farage is the iconoclast challenging the elitists from the outside, just like Trump did in 2016 in the American election, by saying, well, they are all the same and I am different because I am charismatic and I speak my mind. But the one attack line that you should have on Nigel Farage is that he's bought out. He's bought out by big business interests, by the property industry, by rich motherfuckers who finance Reform UK as a political outfit because they've not got any members as much as any other party does. They're financed by big business. But your criticisms of Nigel Farage for being that, which is the only criticism that you can have about his conduct, is completely neutralised when the Labour right act in the identical way. You have zero moral high ground to attack the person who you need to beat at the next election, because mark my words, it'll be Farage and not Tom Tugendhat or Robert Jenrick that you should be worried about. True. And this is opening the door for the ascendancy of Farageism into UK politics. That's dangerous.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. And yeah, like you say, I don't care if the rules have been broken. The rules are obviously bullshit. If this falls within the rules are wrong. Not that you're in the right for following the rule. The rules are shit. They are at best insufficient and at worst a ticket to Corruptville. Obviously.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem is that, especially when it comes to conflicts of interest, like the way in which we deal with conflicts of interest is we don't scrutinize what that conflict of interest is. You just declare that it exists, and then we ignore it.
Yeah.
You add it to your ministerial or your members' declarations, your list of potential conflicts of interest, and then it never gets scrutinised. Oh, you've declared it, that's the rules. Well, we're not going to talk about what that would mean in terms of how you set policy. We'll discuss how that might mean that the person who's donating you might want a return on their investment. No, we just say, well, they've declared it, that's within the rules, let's move on. It's a ridiculous system.
Exactly. What are these people getting back? Because presumably they're not doing this out of the goodness of their own heart. What is it they want for that money? That's what you need to answer. Thank you, James Holmes, for gifting 10 subby subs on the YouTubes. Much love.
Of transparency, he is attempting to be transparent. The truth is in our system. I've just come back from the United States, where US presidents and first ladies have a huge budget paid for by the taxpayer so that they look their best on behalf of the US people. We don't have that system over here. The truth is that successive...
So in an era where we're having to fucking freeze pensioners, you're arguing we should have state-funded dresses for his missus?
This is the argument. This is the genuine argument that he's making. This is crazy. This is wild.
This is ridiculous.
His argument is that we should nationalise the wardrobes of our elected officials. I mean, I've heard of champagne socialism, right?
Yeah.
But one of the biggest criticisms that socialists get is that, oh, well, the rulers live in the palaces and then everybody else gets nothing, which is, of course, capitalism.
Yeah.
But if you looked at, say, for example, the difference between the living conditions in the Kremlin and in Magnitogorsk in the Soviet Union, right? That's a legitimate criticism of the way in which the Soviet structure was set up, a very legitimate one. And, of course, the biggest way you should dispel that is by talking about the devolution of power towards workers, which is what I would term as the kind of socialism that I want to see.
Yeah.
And yet you have the quote-unquote Democratic Socialist Party representative here, not that he is one, but it's what the party is in its own mission statement, saying, well, actually, our elected representative should be able to take your money to dress ourselves. And so in lieu of that, we're going to have to get rich people to be sugar daddies for us instead.
Yeah, unbelievable. So, privatise the NHS, nationalise the Prime Minister's suits is literally the message of the Labour Party. Amazing. Fucking amazing.
Prime Ministers, unless you're a billionaire like the last one, do rely on donations, political donations, so they can look their best, both in the hope of representing the country if you're in the opposition, or indeed as Prime Minister. That's the situation.
But with respect, the Starmers aren't exactly broke. I mean, he had big senior jobs and paid very well, paid very well as Prime Minister.
I'm not suggesting the Prime Minister is broke, and of course we can have that debate. But the point is this, that successive Prime Ministers want to look their best and their partners for the country. That is what lies behind this.
And you wouldn't mind, but his missus doesn't do anything either. When you say look at best, what, she appears on camera once a month? Well, they can't afford one fucking dress.
They do a Christmas card together where they artificially make him taller. That's the thing that happens.
Amazing.
But like, he spent like £50,000 on clothes. You don't need to spend £50,000 to look good.
No.
Right. Your average guy on like a night out or like going to a fancy restaurant can scrub up excellently, fit to be the leader of the country in terms of how far you scrub it. Scrubbing up as a bloke especially, and that is not a difficult thing to do, and neither is it expensive. You can go down to not the most expensive place in town and get reasonable tailoring and not an expensive price, right? Even the Prime Minister of this country does not need to spend £50,000 on clothes. I'm sorry, this is nonsense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Lord Ali is a long-standing peer. He's been in the House of Lords for well over 2 decades, and he's probably the most long-standing donor of the Labour Party. His politics are clear. Everyone knows him in Westminster, and he has. And we thank him for the work that he continues to do on behalf of our party.
Okay, David Lamb, there's so much we'd like to talk to you about. I know you're going to China later in the year, so it'd be great, perhaps, when you go on that trip, if you come back and talk to us about that. But thank you very much indeed for coming in this morning and covering so much ground. Well, what did you think of what he had to say on all of those topics? You can email us as ever.
Yeah, I think he's a prick, yeah.
Only the most searing, intellectual political analysis here on the No Justice stream today.
Well, that's all you need to say, really. He's a wanker.
.co.uk, or on social media you can use the hashtag BBC Laura K if you are that way.
Hello, lesbian hot sauce. Everyone go and follow LHS immediately.
Do it.
Inclined. So, Piers, what did you make of what he had to say about Ukraine? No decision yet. It seemed he was understanding of what President Zelensky's asked for, but still not willing to grant it.
Well, let me congratulate Mr. Lammy on becoming so diplomatic. Now he's got his fancy new title, because he certainly didn't used to be, particularly when it came to Donald Trump. And I'll answer the question he wouldn't answer about Trump later. But he also...
Wow. Again, you really are fucking... You're battling with Laura Loomer over who gets to job him first, aren't you? Oh, wow. He's now more diplomatic about my friend. Get fucked, mate.
So didn't specifically answer your question about these long-range missiles. To me, there's a kind of moral inconsistency between saying, as a government,
by the way,
we should give Ukraine every...
Speaking of people being oiled up financially by potential donors, if you want to oil us up and donate to us, you can do this in the following ways. You can subscribe on Twitch for $4.99 or for free with Twitch Prime by linking your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. Gets you access to our ad-free viewing as well as our animated static emotes in Twitch chat. It's free to do so by linking your Amazon Prime account. Just pop over from YouTube if you do have Amazon Prime and haven't used it. If you want a message read out, you can drop bits on Twitch. 100 bits gets you text-to-speech, which is 100 on my end or 200 on Kev's end. If you want to write out a message on YouTube, there's a super chat function there. I think both myself and Kev will read out all of your messages regardless of the value. Form the super chat function if you want a message there. If you want to become a member on YouTube, there's only 99p on our channels, which is cheaper than the proverbial can of red stripe. That gets you access in my channel, gets you access to my archive live streams, and we both have access to static emotes by becoming a member on our respective YouTube channels. But in my mind, the best way to support the stream is to gift memberships on YouTube. That's always an excellent way to support the stream, as it helps boost the stream in the algorithm, helps spread the love around, and it gives everybody the green names in chat. So if you don't have a message to read out on YouTube and you're watching on YouTube or want to support, the best way to do it is to gift memberships for that algorithmic boost.
True, and I will be spending the money on expensive dresses so that I look nice.
True. Which politician are you going to buy out with your Twitch riches?
You know what? Vladimir Zelensky. Let's go weird with it.
Absolutely. I'm going to go with Fatima Payman, the Skibbity senator in Australia.
Oh, is that what their name is? Oh, okay. The Skibbity senator. Fucking hell. What a time to be alive.
Everything they need to finish the job to win this war, and then to procrastinate and dither and delay over a particular type of weaponry, which President Zelensky says is essential to their ability to do that. So to me, if we're in this, we're in this. If we genuinely believe we should be upholding and defending freedom and democracy, as I believe we absolutely should, when a sovereign European democratic country is illegally invaded, we should give President Zelensky what he wants.
John, how do our leaders stop the war going on in Ukraine forever? Because it's clear they are, in a bind. There's obviously a reluctance to do anything like put Western boots on the ground. There's always even a reluctance to supply extra weapons. But how do they bring it to an end?
I am reminded with Piers Morgan. Oh, and actually someone in chat just mentioned it. The fantastic clip of the now late comedian, fuck's sake, 8 out of 10 cats. What's his name?
Sean Locke.
Sean Locke. Who said that when he died he wanted to have his ashes blown into the eyes of Piers Morgan. And
that's an excellent one.
It's a beautiful sentiment. I don't know if his final wish was granted. I presume you would have to get consent from Piers Morgan. But who could deny a dying man his wish? Piers.
Absolutely. The only other thing with relationship to this that I will always remember quoting, or I should always remember, it will stick in my mind, because it's like the only thing I've ever agreed with that's come out of Jeremy Clarkson's mouth is that. Remember when Jeremy Clarkson punched Piers Morgan in the face?
I roughly remember it.
Happened at an awards ceremony, and I remember the very famous quote from Jeremy Clarkson afterwards, and he very specifically said, "I'd never punched anybody in the face before in my life, but I thought Piers Morgan was a good place to start."
True.
Well, I think the first thing is they should not signal this kind of dither and dilemma. They need to be firm in the signals that they send. Interesting, the Foreign Secretary mentioned tanks. On that was a red line. We dithered, eventually we gave them. Then there was the aircraft. It was a red line. We dithered, and eventually we gave it to them. Here we are again with missiles. We're dithering. My guess is eventually they will be provided.
You do think they'll go eventually?
I think they probably will. And what we should be doing is being firm from the outset. I would also say that there are other risks associated with the ongoing conflict, and that is to do with internal recruiting in Ukraine, getting the right levels of manpower, and then there's making sure that the Ukrainians are properly supplied in other areas, and that's particularly in air defence and in barrels and artillery ammunition. So we need to sustain them across the board, but above all, we need to send the very firm signals in everything that we do, and we're really not doing that at the moment.
But how would we bring it actually to a conclusion? Because it's one thing, isn't it, giving Zelensky things that he wants.
Pause a second again, sorry, the people in chat are pulling me up. Didn't Jeremy Clarkson punch somebody because he wanted a hot meal and not a sandwich? He also did that. It's why he got fired from the BBC. As I said, I do not like Jeremy Clarkson. I think he's terrible. This is why the only thing I've agreed to that come out of his mouth is that maybe punching people was a good place to start if you were going to punch somebody.
Exactly.
In Minecraft, also, I mean,
That was
very
not-
specifically in the video game Minecraft.
That was not an endorsement of all of the things he's punched ever.
True. Also, apparently he was because peers reported in the press about Clarkson's infidelity. And you know what? Like, if that's your personal business, that's your personal business. I don't think that's necessarily in the public interest to know whether or not Clarkson's been fucking around. Like, it wasn't in the public's interest to know that Max Mosley was doing Nazi-themed sex orgies, right? But the press still reported on it. I think it was still bad. Like, leave that shit behind closed doors and let them work out in this themselves.
I mean, the fact that it's a Nazi thing and given his family's history... Okay, I'm not that bothered by it.
He's using BDSM to explore taboo things to try and get over his past. I guess I don't know. I'm rambling.
List. I think the former Defence Secretary once, said actually the UK and the Western Allies couldn't be like an Amazon warehouse just giving him everything. But beyond supplying weaponry, how can the West bring it to an end?
It is very strange, isn't it, that we're in a situation now where these rightoids are like, we as the British government, or our British government, should just take dictation from the President of Ukraine. What? Like, just because he wants something doesn't mean that he can get that thing. Like, there are other ramifications we have to take into account. There's cost we have to take into account, which apparently they've forgotten about. If you want to spend tuppence halfpenny on a fucking school to keep it from crumbling into the dust, that needs to be, fucking checked and double-checked by some Tufton Street wankers. But no, we can give billions to endless wars. Love it. But apparently Zelensky just gets whatever he wants. Does that work for everyone? What about if the President of France wants something? We'll just give him that?
Well, at the moment, Ukraine is not winning or losing. Russia are not winning or losing. And provided that we continue to sustain Ukraine in the way that we should, my guess is that will continue. And therefore that leads you to the view that eventually there must be some sort of a negotiated settlement. And the question of winning or losing, I suspect, is not something that we will be able to achieve. One has to remember that defence is the stronger form of war, and therefore if one is on the defensive, then you are likely to be able to sustain that line. So my guess is that there will be no decisive win or lose. It will result in some kind of stalemate and negotiation.
Let's then move on to the Middle East, because John, I know you've just recently come back from a visit, but Ava, the issue of Israel and Gaza has been troublesome for a long time for the British left. Since the government has moved in, they suspended some arms sales to Israel, but do you think this is still a tricky balance for the Labour government?
Well, not even 10% of those arms export licences were. It's absolutely extraordinary. We're talking about dither and delay with supplying weapons to Ukraine. We have no problem at all with continuing to supply weapons to Israel that are being used to flatten Gaza. And the reason that we don't mind that is because Russia is a nuclear power, and, well, quite simply, we don't have that same threat from Gaza or Palestine. This is an extraordinary, tricky issue for Labour because they're not being bold enough, they're not being brave enough. David Lammy has long sat on, he's been at every Palestine event for probably the past decade. I think I've been covering him at Palestine.
Yeah, but again, he's more than happy to drive the ministerial jag over the corpses of Palestinians. He doesn't give a fuck.
Absolutely, yeah. If you don't like his principles, he has others.
Exactly. He's the ultimate weather vane. Whichever way the wind blows is the direction he's facing.
Events for the past decade, and then the moment that he becomes Foreign Secretary, he goes quiet. What's extraordinary, when he was in the shadow position, he lobbied David Cameron to publish those arms export licenses. He wanted to know the information. Now that he's in power, now that he's Foreign Secretary, he's also refusing to publish that information.
Well, they did suspend, we should say, as you said, 10% of licences, so there is a difference in approach from this government. But do you feel that this will continue to be troublesome for Labour from the backbenches?
Oh, well, I think it's tricky.
There is difference, but the difference is that they're just more dishonest with it. Like, they're just as happy to support the genocide of the Palestinian people, but they're going to pretend like they've got a conscience by doing this weird 10% of arms licenses for a bit might be suspended. Like, it's embarrassing. At least the Tories are just balls to the wall, like, No, fuck it. We know we support Israel just doing whatever the fuck they like. At least that's honest. It's disgusting. It's an abominable thing. It's criminal. But at least you know where they fucking stand.
Exactly, and the thing as well is that I think that essentially they know that the public's opinion is very much in favour of the removal of arms licenses.
Yeah.
The public opinion on this, very specifically, is that we want to see a reduction in arms licenses. We believe that Israel have committed war crimes. We support the Palestinian cause very broadly in the UK, in political circles. So they want to make something that can be seen as a gesture, can be seen as a point of view to win over people by saying we are making a stand against what's happening in Gaza by getting rid of 10% of arms licenses, which, as has already been stated by the Foreign Secretary, does not materially change Israel's ability to quote-unquote defend itself, defend herself, to use his terms, to gender Israel correctly, but fundamentally not actually change the diplomatic relationship between Britain and Israel.
Yeah.
That's the issue. That's the problem that we all have on the left here. It's like, well, no, actually, if you actually wanted to challenge Netanyahu, if you wanted to challenge the actions of the Israeli government in Gaza, you would be far more forceful than saying, we are doing something that materially actually doesn't affect you at all. The way you get people to change their opinions, the way you get people to change their positions, the way that you try and force people to be to take a different stance on an issue is by actually materially putting up a fight to what they're doing and saying, well, if you do this, we will stop supporting you. Yeah. Whether it be just with arms license or fully diplomatically as well. I mean, we should have been supporting them diplomatically given what they've been doing since 1967 regardless. But on this very specific issue of the war crimes being committed, that they've been advised to do so, they want to tell the public, we have done something, but not actually do something. And this was the way that they could try and maneuver around this issue, maneuver specifically around this issue to get in the good graces with the public whilst not actually changing the geopolitical reality on the ground.
True. Also, just like you mentioned, since 1967, it's contested history, okay? We learned this from the biggest brain, from the biggest brain on the interwebs. Yeah, it's fuck off.
Because they've had such a massive intake with new, 2024 MPs, and actually there's not that many left of the Socialist Campaign Group, and a lot of them are now actually suspended. But we don't have an election coming up anymore, so it's not so much of a threat.
So the Stormtroopers may be quite obedient for now. John, I'd like to hear. So you've got huge military experience. You've just
whoa! We literally had the BBC journalist calling them Stormtroopers. She's gone on Twitter too much, clearly.
Yeah, brain rot. Thank you, Colin Rush, for gifting a membership. Much love.
Been out to the Middle East and seen some of the conditions on the ground. And if you would explain, you wrote a very interesting piece in the Times earlier this week.
Did I get
you had a certain view before your visit.
YouTube chatters. Is anyone here who coming in from a raid like half an hour ago? Because YouTube got rid of the notification to tell you that you've been raided in your chat. So at like 10:38 or something, my viewers shot up from 230 to 426. Has somebody raided in? But I just haven't noticed. Answers on a postcard.
Piers Morgan.
If the Piers Morgan Uncensored has raided into my channel.
Yeah.
If you've just joined, welcome. I say if you just joined. If you joined half an hour ago and are still here, this is the No Justice stream. We talk about UK politics 6 days a week, or 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. If that sounds like your deal, your bag, please consider subscribing on YouTube. It is free. I'm currently speaking with Kevin Logan, also a socialist from the UK, who talks about politics from a socialist perspective. If you want to be able to follow Kev's content, you can follow Kev at KFLogan1875 over on Twitch, as well as YouTube at Floppy111. Oh, it's Loaderbox. Well, that makes sense. That's most why so many viewers came in. That's a lot of viewers. Thank you very much.
I've got the skibbity Riz. Before we discovered that earlier, I'm not mid. I have the skibbity Riz. Okay.
The skibbity Riz, absolutely.
And a certain view after. What changed?
But some of my views changed. Just a bit of context for me. When we went out there, the first thing we did was visit the sites of the 7th October massacre, one of the kibbutzes, and then we went to the site of the music festival. And we saw videos taken from Hamas fighters, terrorists, head cams, with heads being cut off, with hoes and knives, women and children being murdered. We then went to...
Don't call the women hoes. It's out of order. There's no need for it, mate. Jesus. Also, still the funniest nonsense to come out of all of this was Rabbi Shmuley Butayak saying that they were chopping off titties and playing football with them.
Wasn't that was something there was like this first responder group? Is it this one of those lies spread from like the first responder group in Israel that posted a bunch of dumb stuff like babies being thrown in ovens as well? That came out from that, right?
Yeah.
Like we have there's videos of what happened. Like this guy specifically said, like there was plenty of videos of the atrocities that were committed on October the 7th, right?
You don't
They
need to big it up.
To make it sound any worse than it is, than when people are being shot in their homes and set on fire and having their head being beheaded, right?
It makes you question other elements of it which are true. If you just keep fucking lying and making shit up.
Yeah, it undermines. I mean, literally, it was a really interesting point that was made. Even the Hasbreasts say, like, we're massively losing the information war. That's because you keep feeding literal, actual, factual, factually incorrect statements that then get repeated by the President of the United States about 30 beheaded babies or some shit, right?
Yeah.
Because there are plenty of things the IDF say that are true. They, like, for example, they just admitted that they killed 3 hostages with an airstrike, for example. They admit that they use the Gaza Health Ministry's information with regards to the casualties. They obviously differentiate between militants and civilians differently, but they don't just brazenly lie in the same way as actually members of the Likud party will lie, or indeed these weirdo people who get pulled up from other parts of Israel, like this first responder group that just make up a bunch of shit that then gets repeated by the leader of the free world, that then massively undermines them when they actually do say things that are true. It's ridiculous.
Yep.
To speak to some of the parents of the hostages. We then went from there and had a briefing from the general who'd just come back from commanding all the forces in Gaza, and he described an operational environment which I have never seen before. So in places like Fallujah back in 2004, we dealt with suicide bombers hiding behind civilian shields, booby traps everywhere. But
why were you in Fallujah? That's not Britain.
Where then?
Why didn't you join the British Army? What were you doing in Iraq, mate? Maybe you should have fucking left.
The difference in Gaza is the extraordinary tunnel mechanisms that they have there. 200 kilometres discovered so far, potentially up to 500 kilometres underneath a piece of ground 25 miles by 7. And those tunnels are popping up either side of Israeli troops and behind them.
They make them sound like fucking gophers. Well, they're little moles digging about. Jesus Christ.
And so an extraordinary complex environment, and of course urban and one of the most built up areas in the world.
And yet our viewers will think that, you know, day after day we see the images of appalling destruction, devastating loss of life going on and on.
It is absolutely dreadful. However, that Hamas threat continues to exist just on the edge of Israeli homes, and there was no question that they had to go in.
Why are the Israeli homes there? Jesus Christ.
And deal with that threat. Now, we then went from there to look at the way in which they were interpreting the rules of armed conflict, and the way in which they were trying to clear areas that they were having to go into, the way in which they were holding people to account for when they transgressed, for example, in the central World Kitchen attack where people were killed. And we then went into Rafah and spoke to people about it. So when we finished the trip, and I'll come to my conversation with Mr. Netanyahu, we said 3 things to him. First of all, there'll be tremendous skepticism about the way in which Israeli troops are conducting their operations. They must open up Gaza to the world's media to allow them to comment objectively on what's going on. Point 1. Point 2 is they must have a political objective for military activity. Otherwise, it's just violence, and it leads to more violence, more hate. And the final thing that we said to him is that there must be a plan now. We learned this in Iraq.
Fair play to the guy. That's literally true. It just seems a little bit... It seems a little bit contradictory coming from somebody who was in NATO.
Hollow. Yeah, no, it's just hollow. When he says they must open up to the media, to the West Bank, you're like, yeah, okay, that's true, but like they haven't, and they're not going to.
I wonder why.
So like it's irrelevant you saying that. It's like the same people who say, "Oh, we call for a ceasefire." What the fuck does that mean? What does that even achieve? What is this?
I guess at least maybe the NATO people are learning that if you destabilize areas, it makes them more dangerous and more volatile, and ends up biting you on the arse later down the line.
I know,
right?
but they like
I guess
that.
They must have learned. I mean, if they didn't learn it in Afghanistan, they must have learned it in Iraq.
I know,
at the
but
very least.
they like that because there's nothing that people who sell war like more than future business. They're in the business of creating more wars. People like this would be out of a job if there was world peace. They're not interested in stability or peace in these places. As long as it's vaguely peaceful here, so when they retire from their genocidal bullshit, they can, chill. They're just fucking, scumbags. Anyone who gets to that position is a monster. Honestly, if you've got that high up the greasy pole, you have done some awful shit.
We must have a plan for the reconstruction of Gaza, and that needs to be on the table now. There needs to be holding conferences to gather funds and getting resources together so they can move straight in. Otherwise, the people who are displaced, the 2 million people who are displaced, will be sent.
Again, they're not wrong that there's plans to move straight in, but I don't think it's about rebuilding Gaza for the Palestinians.
No, it's about rebuilding it for some people, but not necessarily Palestinian people. No.
I mean, there's already settlers planting fucking trees in North Gaza.
Yeah.
That for many years to come.
Piers, I know you follow this incredibly closely as well. We heard there David Lammy reluctant to say that a ceasefire was impossible while Netanyahu is still in charge. But some people do believe that because of the political environment there.
I think it is, sadly. I think Netanyahu has a lot of self-interest at play here. One is that all the polling shows that whilst Israeli people support the military action against Hamas, they also, in a very large majority, want him held to account at the end of this, and that would almost certainly mean he would lose his job. Secondly, he is facing ongoing corruption charges that have been put at bay while this war is being conducted. So on a personal level, he knows the moment this is settled, he's in a courtroom facing corruption charges. He's also being held to ransom, I would argue, by some very hard right headbangers in his cabinet who are basically talking in a very genocidal way about what they would like to do in Gaza.
Okay, but he's the one that put them in the cabinet. Look, when you say he's being held hostage or whatever, he's the prime minister, he's the head of the cabinet. He's in the cabinet with genocidal lunatics, mate.
Yeah, if you don't want Bezalel Smotrich to have the handle on policy or rhetoric, don't invite him into your cabinet.
Yeah, exactly. He's not like he's had this cabinet thrust upon him. He could just not be fucking prime minister of Israel. That's also an option. But he has decided, no, actually, I would rather, for my own personal benefit, sit with genocidal lunatics and kill hundreds of thousands of Palestinians. Monstrous.
So this is a situation where I don't think there is
also
any...
acting as if what he's saying, what fucking Benjamin Netanyahu is saying, isn't genocidal.
He was the one who invoked Amalek, right?
Yeah, ridiculous. Yeah.
Plan for what happens at the
He's
end.
the one that the current government as well, who are issuing new licenses for annexations in the West Bank as well. This is the biggest the biggest expansion in land claims we've seen in decades in the West Bank.
Yeah, no, he's got corruption charges hanging over him. Actually, he and his wife have both got corruption charges related to some financial dealings during his first couple of terms as prime minister, and he's guilty as fuck.
And there's also all the stuff where he tried to essentially take away the independence of the judiciary, if I remember that correctly.
He did try to do that. Yeah, he tried to nobble them, and then realised his only chance was to become prime minister again. So he did, because there's immunity to prosecution whilst he's in office, which I don't particularly like as a thing, but whatever. He played the system. But hopefully, you know, he gets kicked out and ends his days rotting in a jail cell. Would be some very, very small sliver of justice.
Pretty much to the ground. You've got 40,000 people have been killed, many of whom were Hamas, maybe 15 to 20,000, but 20,000 more civilians have been killed in the process. And you know, remember about Gaza, which is different, I think, to anywhere else in the world. Half of the population are under 18. So you're talking about thousands and thousands of children being killed in a way that I've never seen at any conflict in the world. So this has to end. I don't think Netanyahu has the will. I don't think Hamas are interested in any peace with Israel. They are wedded to an
it's not a lack of gumption. It's the fact that he doesn't want it at all. He's actively collapsing the agreements.
Yeah. And now has Donald Trump phoning him up, begging him not to agree to anything.
Exactly. Well, why quibble about the removal of the military from Gaza when you can spend your entire time saying, well, I want the Philadelphia corridor and the Netzarim corridor as well. We will have entire control over like a gigantic exclusion zone.
Essential demolition of everything that Israel stands for. So this is a very difficult situation, but I personally think it needs fresh leadership on the Israeli side.
Okay, well, we will talk to you a bit later in the programme about what happens with the American leadership, because I know the audience will be interested to hear your views on
answer the question
Trump.
that the Foreign Secretary refused to answer.
And I have got that. I will write that down here in my notes and we'll hear it at the end of the show. Three of you, thank you very much for it now. Well, the election didn't just put Labour in charge, it changed the whole setup in Parliament. The Lib Dems became the third biggest party, nabbing dozens of seats from the Tories, ending up with 72 seats, their best ever result. Well, the leader's trademark during the election wasn't strategy, but stunts to grab the attention. And from the sight of him on a jet ski yesterday, there he is, Ed Davey, still in his wetsuit at the start of the party's conference in Brighton. There is no end to it all. But a drier Ed Davey is with us now. He joins us down the line from the party's conference in Brighton. Good morning to you, Sir Ed.
Good morning, Laura. It's great to be on your programme. I wish you were here in sunny Brighton, and I've got my dry suit on today, so you're okay.
Okay, well, no wetsuits on Sunday mornings.
Despite, you know, the whole being an accessory to democide thing, it's really difficult to not like find Ed Davey like a personable individual.
Yeah, I know. I'm sure you can get on with the guy, but I do
like
think
he seems like a real human in a way that like Keir and Rishi just do not connect with like humanity on like a basic level.
I mean, he also jet skied over the blood of the people who were killed by austerity.
It's true. All those excess deaths.
It's like he's still a ghoul. He's just a ghoul who's like, you could probably have a pint with, and I sort of don't care. That's not something I really judge politicians by.
True, absolutely. But I think that it's interesting. Will be interesting to see the strategy that the Liberal Democrats they laid out at their conference was actually going after Conservative voters. They have made it clear they have a cordon sanitaire around the Labour coalition, which is again a part of the different kind of area of the country. Then, so they wouldn't be attacking them normally anyway, but. They're setting their sights on essentially the elimination of the Conservative Party and trying to get like the One Nation Tories to come to their side, which of course is basically where the One Nation Tories already lie. They're already basically Liberal Democrats. They're basically where the Labour right is, like the consensus centrist politics, apart from not being like vehemently anti-trans in the way that Conservative members usually are. And so it'll be interesting to see how that strategy pays off in the future, using Ed Davey saying, well, I'm a real human being, you can trust me, even though my political policy platform led to 330,000 excess deaths when we were in coalition with the Conservative government, trading benefit sanctions for a 5p plastic bag tax in the 2015, one of the conference agreements before the 2015 election. Like, that's the way you win over Conservative voters. So we're nice, we're cuddly, but we also take out on the disabled.
Oh, hello there. Is it Hello Kitty Scat or Hello Kitty's Cat? That's two very different names. But anyway, welcome in.
Pledged to be a constructive opposition. But does that mean you're not really going to challenge the Labour Party now they're in government because you're so busy having a go at the Tories?
No, we absolutely will challenge the government where we disagree with them. We're going to be a better opposition.
You don't disagree with them? So, like,
what's ironic is that they do disagree on like their approach to the NHS. I was interesting that the Liberal Democrats' response to the report, remember, because the Ghazi report specifically said that the NHS was starved of capital investment throughout the austerity period. Ironically, when the Liberal Democrats were in government, being responsible for the lack of capex in the NHS, and their bones that they're picking with Keir Starmer's response is that Keir Starmer read a report that said there is not enough NHS investment, and his response was, we can't keep pouring money into the NHS, no more money, just reform. And I'm like, well, then you're just ignoring the central thesis of the report that you commissioned from a Labour Lord about how to deal with the crisis in the NHS. So what the Lib Dems have done is say, well, actually, the report was correct, you should put more money in and you should do these like tangential taxes to be able to pay for it. So they are actually attacking the Labour Party ever so slightly from the left, which is interesting.
Ever so slightly.
Position than the Conservatives, who are so divided and going off to the right. What we're going to do is what we said to the British people during the general election. It's really important we keep the trust we built up. We're going to talk about the NHS and care. We're going to talk about sewage, the cost of living. And already the government's made 2 big mistakes in those 3 areas, at least. And we are holding them to account. So on the cost of living, they're withdrawing the winter fuel payment from millions of pensioners who are struggling when energy bills are going up by over 10% this winter. So they're making a mistake on the cost of living, and we're opposing them on that. We're worried that in the NHS debate, they're talking about reform.
Oh, so you're against austerity now? Oh, that's cool. Now you're in fucking opposition.
Before investment, when we think there needs to be reform and investment. So we will hold them to account, but we will be different from the Conservatives, because being constructive means you have a different tone, or you don't do the Yahoo politics that I think people are sick of.
Oh, geez, so it's just fucking, it's vibes. It's just vibes.
No, yeah, welcome to UK politics. It's all vibes. It's all vibes-based. Policy, what's that?
And you also put your alternatives forward. So at the Prime Minister's questions just last week, when I was opposing the government's withdrawal of winter fuel payments, we were saying, yeah, there is a financial deficit left by the Tories. We agree with you on that. But there are other ways to deal with that problem, and we put them forward rather than punishing pensioners.
But Labour has a majority of 167, and they've even suspended 8 MPs for daring to disagree with them on their own side. So you say you want to be heard and you will be listened to in a different way, but they don't have to listen to you. Can you admit that?
Well, I think anyone who's been in British politics and is opposition and sees that size majority knows that you have to do opposition in a particular way to get heard. And I think the tone that we're adopting, we're avoiding the Yahoo politics, the fact that we aren't responsible for the mess created by the Conservatives, and the fact that we'll put forward ideas that we...
You are partly responsible for that. You are partly responsible. I won't let you off the hook.
Nope, never. Never happening, mate.
Championed at the election. I
will be in my 60s, nursing arthritis, and I will still be hating the Liberal Democrats for the 2010 coalition government.
Fuck them.
It gives a chance to get heard. And, you know, our record number of MPs, 72, the largest number for the Liberals or Liberal Democrats for over 100 years, they'll be champions for their local constituents. I said that at the election, we're going to have local champions, and they'll get their voice heard for the people who put their trust in them.
But in having a different tone, which lots of our viewers might think, great, I'd like people to be constructive, can you actually get heard, though? Will you be tough enough? And if we look at a practical example, when Rachel Reeves announced her review of public finances back in July, she cut entirely those proposals on social care that the Conservatives had, and I know how much you care about...
And cut back on capital expenditures in the NHS, which is exactly what the report said was a bad thing to do.
Yep, that's exactly what she did.
Thanks, Rach.
Social care. Labour dropped it, and there's barely been a peep from your party. Surely if it had been a Tory government that would have dropped plans, you'd be absolutely going after them hammer and tongs.
Laura, we actually have criticised the government for that, just as we criticised the Conservatives for doing the same thing. And what we've said is that in the October the 30th budget, we need to see a budget for the NHS and for care. and we're putting forward our ideas, which will include investment in social care. It's absolutely essential. You know, they talk about reform, and I think they're right to, but we've got to get the right type of reform. And we've argued, and I think we're probably the only party arguing it with this intensity, that social care is a critical part, the most important part of that reform. I don't believe you can sort out some of the problems in our hospitals where people can't get discharged, where people keep going back, and there's a revolving door, unless you sort out social care. And that means, you know, better care homes, more care staff, better domiciliary care services, paying care workers more. As you know, we set that out in our election campaign, and we're going to be banging the drum for care and carers and social care, because we think that's the only way you can save our NHS.
And many viewers might like the idea of that, but it costs a lot of money. And we've looked at the figures behind.
Notice she didn't say, when talking about Ukraine, many viewers might agree with that, but it will cost a lot of money. That wasn't a part of the conversation at all. Money was never mentioned. When it comes to taking care of sick old people, no, fuck them. We need to penny pinch. It's grotesque. The levels of, like, ghoulishness that the British political establishment deal with, or deal in, sickens me. Genuinely sickens me.
Because it is really important, actually, what Davey is saying here, and the crisis in social care is one of the large contributing factor. This is also mentioned in the Darcy report specifically. And the crisis in social care is leading us to the place where people can't be discharged from hospital because there's no care places for them to be put in. So they end up what is unaffectionately called bed blocking. I hate that turn of phrase, but it's how people describe it. So people who need beds to be seen now in hospitals can't get those beds because they're full of patients waiting to get discharged to go to care homes or to care facilities that don't have the space for them to go. And the crisis in social care is massively handicapping the NHS right now. So he's right to say that it's important to spend. I think that money has to get spent, right?
Yeah.
That money has to get spent. If the NHS wants to get fixed, we are going to have to spend that money. Saying we can't turn on the spending taps, we can't keep putting money into the bottomless pit, the leaky bucket everybody who denigrates the NHS calls it, or not do any more investment without reform, as Keir Starmer says. We cannot do that unless we sort out social care, and that will require money. That will require funding.
Indeed. Thank you to James for 5 gifted memberships on the YouTube. Much love. And thank you to Jack for resubscribing for 30 months, or as they describe it, about 18 Liz Trusses or 90 Scaramucci's in American. I will never not use this method of measurement. You know what?
How many William Henry Harrisons?
Oof, well, I don't know. Lots, I imagine. I don't fucking know.
One of your main proposals, which is to provide free personal care in England in a similar way to how it's provided in Scotland. But you say it would cost 2.7 billion, but experts we've checked with say it'd be more like 6 or 7 billion. So now you're a bigger party, you want to be seen as a more influential outfit. Do you have to have a closer look at your own numbers? Because from what we've seen, they don't look like they quite add up.
No, we have...
I'll just decode that for you. You're now closer to being a powerful political movement, and your view of this does not conform with the neoliberal consensus of the British political establishment. In order to be taken seriously as one of the sensibles and to actually become a genuine force of possible government, you will have to change that policy. Is what's being said
absolutely.
Had this debate actually in the election. We showed that our numbers actually are the right ones. I'm very happy to talk to the people who did your workings and show them our workings. First of all, there is some money already in the government pot. We were including that because that can be used for part of this work. And secondly, if you look at a lot of the analysis, if you do free personal care, it saves the NHS by the end of this decade over £3 billion a year because it frees up the NHS. And it's so much cheaper to look after people in care homes or in their own homes in the way we're proposing. So our numbers are very robust.
Also, it's again, the money is less important to me than the fact that people should be in their fucking houses. Sick people, you know, or elderly people, whatever, they should have their own fucking space. If they can be looked after in their own homes, good. Let's do that. Let's make it as comfortable and humane as it possibly can be.
Absolutely.
But no, let's penny pinch. Let's freeze them to death. Let's penny pinch.
Like, it's really, and it can. Another reason why is that people say all that money has to come from taxation because the NHS is day-to-day spending. Well, first of all, half of it is capex that we're not doing, which comes from borrowing regardless. But I will make of the very large case, even from a Keynesian perspective. I believe I'm an MMT kind of guy, but the Keynesian perspective on whether or not you can fiscally expand, you can use new money, whether it's borrowing or printing, is that if you can increase the productive capacity of the economy, it's not necessarily going to inflate because you have more goods and services because there'll be more production. And I say, well, that's why we can afford to deficit spend from a Keynesian perspective on the NHS capacity problem and the social care capacity problem.
Yeah.
Because if you invest in these things, when we have such a massively sick workforce in this country, people that want to work but they cannot work because they're sick. This is something we see all the time. You need to get people out of NHS waiting lists, out of beds stuck in hospitals, and into social care that is working effectively and people are paid good wages.
Yep.
If you borrow this money, that would increase the level to which there is money to purchase goods and services. That could theoretically lead to inflation. But if there's more people working because they're not stuck in hospital queues, they're not stuck in beds, they're not stuck waiting for social care, they'll be out being productive, increasing the size of the economy and the number of commodities in circulation, thereby making it a wash in terms of whether or not the actual the prices would start inflating. So it's really justifiable, even though it's not necessarily capex, using borrowing to be able to fix the NHS. Because if we don't fix it now, we will have stagnant growth forever.
Bust, actually. Really happy to have that debate with the government yourselves, because this is so important. I can't stress enough. When I go to my local hospital in Kingston, really well-run hospital, fantastic.
He lives in Jamaica. Jesus. Honestly, he doesn't tan very well, does he? God bless him.
Fantastic care, great staff. Their biggest challenge is that they can't find places for the people that they've treated. They have elderly patients, disabled patients who shouldn't be in hospital, but they can't go to a care home or into their own homes because the care package isn't there. And what is so crazy about this and why it does need reform is it's way more expensive to keep people in hospital. It's not good for them or their families. So our reform proposals are, I can take to my constituency and many other hospitals and communities across the country. Our reform proposals are the right ones. And we've been talking about and arguing for them. And what really upsets me, Laura, is we actually managed to legislate for a lot of our reforms in 2014 in the Carers Act. And the Conservatives said that they were going to back it. And then when they were by themselves after the 2015 general election, they junked it totally. And there's over 1 million pensioners, disabled people, who are not getting care now that would have done if the Conservatives had kept to their word and followed the Liberal Democrat legislation. So
you got your wallet inspected again, is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
They didn't keep their word when you were in government with them, and then they didn't keep their word.
Liberal had their wallets inspected.
And exactly, I mean, come on, mate. When they've shown you the 3-card trick, you shouldn't fall for it again. You should know how it works by now, but.
Like a baby playing peekaboo.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, honestly, they stole his nose. Unbelievable.
I've got
having
nose,
seen
Mr.
how the
Anderson,
Conservatives
and
have
I'm
failed
going to keep it.
So many pensioners and disabled people and failed at the NHS because they didn't proceed with those social care reforms. I am more determined than I've ever been to hold this new government to account on social care.
OK, Ed Davey, thank you very much indeed for joining us from a beautifully sunny Brighton. It's great to have you on the programme. And our numbers, incidentally, are from the independent experts, the Health Foundation, who question the Lib Dems figures. But as ever, it's great to have you on the programme as your conference gets going. Thank you very much indeed. Well, in a couple
I'm
of weeks,
going
it
to
will be the
say,
Tories'
do we
turn.
really care about James Cleverly and some actors?
I certainly don't care about some actors. I don't really care about James Cleverly either.
I will probably end my stream. Are you continuing?
I think I will too, because it's like midnight. nearly.
It is
so,
almost midnight. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna tap out at this point.
Yeah, it's fucking late in it. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for joining in. All of the gift subs, memberships, bits. Thank you very much, Kev, as well. Thank you for all of the raid arenas who stuck around, from James, from Lona, from in your chat, from Sackap and people like that. Thank you very much for sticking around and keeping us company. I'll
You've
be back
got
tomorrow.
way better memory than me, because I can't remember people who raid into me, whereas you remembered the people who raided into you and me. Mad.
That's why we work together. It's symbiotic.
Well, no, because you've got a functioning brain and I don't. When you say symbiotic, it's symbiotic in the sense that there's like a conjoined twin situation, and I'm the little homunculus one. That's what this is. Okay. Anyway, everyone go and follow No Justice MTG. The brain
Everyone go
part
and
of
follow.
the Frankenstein's monster that is the, I don't know, No Justice Kev TG. I don't know what the fuck this is. Anyway, yes, I'll be back tomorrow. Are you streaming tomorrow?
Yes, I will be streaming tomorrow. I'll probably try and do like actual daytime stream. I don't do enough daytime streams, so just been streaming late night basically every night. So I'll probably be back tomorrow at some point as well. I would raid into Raptor Blue, a POC streamer from the United States. I one of recommendations from my chat, and they seem very, very nice. Apparently, they're reacting to some right wing and Trump brain rot. Sounds like something that our streams would enjoy.
Raptor.
So it's RAPTBLUE.
Oh, okay.
RAPTR, sorry, BLUE.
There you go, Raptor Blue. Well, I don't even follow this person, so it'll be new for me too. Everyone go and say hello to this person, and I'll be back tomorrow. Actually, I'll be back tomorrow with Christy, at least for a bit. I don't know how long she's staying, because she's got stuff to do.
Okay.
Anyway.
Well, if Christie's tomorrow, I'll try and do an afternoon stream so I can raid into the happy hour.
True, although we never know when it's starting, so you might have been done by then. Who knows? Either way, yeah, we'll talk another time.
Take care.
And free pass.
Hello, everybody. Absolutely. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wait.